All right. Good evening, and welcome to the Delaware Democratic Party's virtual statewide candidates forum. My name is Evelyn Brady, and I am honored to serve as chair of the Delaware Democratic Party. Thank you for joining us on YouTube for this important opportunity to hear directly from the candidates seeking your support in this year's Democratic primary. For many years, I have been a voting rights advocate, and I firmly believe that one of the most important ways we strengthen our democracy is through voter education. At the Delaware Democratic Party, we work every day to protect your right to vote, expand access to quality healthcare, defend fundamental freedoms, and ensure that our elected officials are working in the best interest of the people of Delaware. Tonight is about empowering you with information. We encourage you to listen carefully to each candidate, learn about their vision, and make an informed decision when you cast your ballot during early voting or on primary election day, September 15th. Primary elections matter. They are how Democrats choose the candidates who will represent our values in the general election. By tuning in tonight, you have already taken an important step in making your voting plan. But we need your help beyond tonight. Talk with your family, friends, neighbors, and coworkers about what you hear tonight. Encourage them to vote too. Democracy is strongest when more people participate, and every conversation you have can inspire another voter to make their voice heard. If tonight inspires you to become more involved, we would love to have you volunteer with the Delaware Democratic Party. Likewise, each of our candidates would welcome your support as they continue traveling up and down our state, sharing their ideas and earning the trust of Delaware voters. This election will be won by candidates alone. Will not be won by candidates alone. It will be won by people willing to knock on doors, make phone calls, write postcards, talk to their neighbors, and help friends and family make a plan to vote. Every volunteer, every conversation, and every vote matters. As our nation marks 250 years since its founding, we are reminded that every generation has been called upon to strengthen and expand our democracy. Now it is our turn. We believe in the promise of this country, in the power of our democracy, and in the responsibility we all share to protect and improve it. Together, we can elect leaders who will stand up for Delaware families, safeguard our freedoms, and ensure that Delaware continues to be a place where opportunity and justice are available to all. Thank you again for being with us tonight, for staying informed, and for participating in our democracy. And on a side note, I hope you all are safe where you are. It is raining here at the headquarters, but we are all ready to enjoy this wonderful evening. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this evening, Sharice Brewington Carr. Sharice is a nationally recognized leader in human services, criminal justice, organizational leadership, and public policy. Throughout her distinguished career, she has served in senior leadership positions across Delaware, North Carolina, and Connecticut, earning recognition for her work in criminal justice reform, human services, and advocacy for women, youth, and families. She is a sought-after speaker, trainer, moderator, and consultant who has worked with state and federal agencies, nonprofit organizations, and private industry across the country. She also serves as an adjunct professor at both Wilmington University and Delaware State University, where she teaches graduate courses in behavioral sciences and organizational management. A dedicated community leader, Sharice is active in numerous civic and service organizations, including the Friends of Hockessin Colored School Number 107, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Zeta Omega Chapter, the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, Delaware Chapter, the Links Incorporated, Wilmington, Delaware Chapter, and Women United. She holds a Master of Human Services from Lincoln University, a Bachelor of Science in Political Science with a minor in Criminal Justice from North Carolina Central University, and a paralegal certification from the University of Delaware. Please join me in welcoming our moderator for this evening, Sharice Brewington Carr.
Thank you, Evelyn, and greetings, everyone. I'm so looking forward to this opportunity and the exchange of ideas and hearing from the candidates vying for the offices of Attorney General, as well as for the office of Treasurer. So now let's talk about the forum rules. And if we could have that PowerPoint here, we'll look at that and we'll be able to share that for all of the candidates so we're clear about how we're setting forth. I see it in the background there. Okay, here we go. So candidates, tonight, we are going to begin with opening statements at 2 minutes per candidate. Question responses will be 1 minute per candidate with 15-second warnings and 30-second rebuttals. Rebuttals will be permitted when a candidate is directly referred by another candidate. I retain the discretion over the rebuttal recognition and also the timing. I'm unable to read the bottom end there. But in general, we're going to have a fair exchange of ideas. You will also have a 90-second opportunity to close at the end. Here we go. At the end of this particular debate, and I'm looking forward to that. So shall we begin? And we'll start in this order. We'll start with Attorney General Jennings, Mr. Bensing, and then Ms. Rickman in that order, and then we'll go in the opposite direction. We have questions here that have been previously identified that we're going to talk about in various categories. We're looking at about 40 minutes as it relates to questions that we have developed, and then also 10 minutes or so with questions, about 10 questions or so from voters that have been pre-selected that indicated that they wanted to be posed and asked. And we'll be asking those as well at the end of the closing or close to the end of the closing. So let's begin. And we can remove that, the rules, the form rules, we can remove that now. And we'll begin with the first question to Attorney General Jennings. We're going to start. I think it's important for everybody to have an idea of what the office actually does and the responsibilities of the office. But before we do that, let's have your opening statement.
Thank you. And good evening, everyone. In politics these days, we hear a lot about what people say they're going to do. Where I come from, you're judged by what you really do. In my time as your Attorney General, we have brought violent crime to record lows. We have reduced our prison population and at the same time, our recidivism rate. We have also taken on big pharma, big oil, and the gun lobby. We have taken on gangs, bad landlords, and corrupt officials. We have championed some of the most significant legislative reform in a generation, from criminal justice reform to police reform to gun safety and humane immigration policy. And we have gone to court time and again to defend the most important right you have, that is the right to vote. And in these unprecedented times, I am the one taking the fight to a lawless president. Everyone says they're going to take on Donald Trump. I'm actually doing it. We've taken him to court more than 50 times, and we are winning. We defeated him at the Supreme Court twice, killing tariffs and protecting birthright citizenship. We have saved Delaware from a $1 billion economic crisis with our lawsuits. AGs are on the front lines. We are the resistance. We are fighting for you. These fights aren't going away. As long as Donald Trump is our president, we are facing a crisis. I have no interest in arguing with other Democrats. I'm in this race to keep protecting our state from a dictator president, preserving the significant progress we've made, and we're not done yet. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Mr. Bensing.
Thank you. Good evening, Delaware Democrats. I'd like to start with a note of personal privilege. Exactly 10 years ago today, my grandma Annie passed away at the age of 74. And in so many ways, I'm in this race today because of her. When my mom totaled our family car while dropping off the nightly deposit for her millionaire boss, Annie took me and my sister in. And while that boss went on vacation and my family filed for bankruptcy and lost our mobile home, my grandma put sleeping bags on her living room floor and gave us a home. Her love became my guiding light. Her work ethic pushed me through shifts at McDonald's to pay for school. Her belief in education inspired me to teach middle school. And her commitment to civil rights motivated me to start the Civil Rights Law Project at Penn Law and serve in President Obama's Justice Department. My name is Dwayne Bensing, and I'm running for Attorney General. As a civil rights attorney and legal director of the ACLU of Delaware, while I respect A.G. Jennings' long service as a prosecutor, I know we cannot solve today's problems with yesterday's playbook. And in a state with more corporations than people, we need an AG who fights corporate greed, protecting working families instead of bending over backwards for tech billionaires like Elon Musk and Sam Altman. We need independent oversight to hold public officials accountable when they fail our schools, misuse opioid settlement funds, or engage in excessive force. We need an attorney general who will fiercely defend our civil rights. Because fighting Donald Trump is not enough. We have to clean up our own backyard to protect democracy for the generations to come. From the classroom to the courtroom, I don't owe the status quo any favors. And justice is a relay race. It's time to pass the torch. My name is Dwayne Bensing, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bensing. And we'll now hear from Ms. Rickman.
Hello, everybody. My name is Patty Rickman, and I'm a domestic violence survivor turned advocate, now turned attorney general candidate for you. I'm for the people. I'm an advocate and I'm a domestic violence survivor, so I know what it's like to be gaslit in a criminal justice system that is supposed to stand for all victims, independent of who you know, power, privilege, money. Nothing should outweigh or outnumber the law. No one is above the law. And in that system, I stood and I testified for SB 17 at Legislative Hall. I was the only domestic violence survivor to do that. I have advocated over 500 hours. I'm dedicated to each and every one of you. I will fight for the rule of law. The Attorney General is the people's attorney. I will fight and advocate for you. I will stand up for all domestic violence victims, intimate partner violence victims, and sexual assault victims. I will stand and speak as the Attorney General, and I will stand and advocate for the rule of law. And I am here to tell you that over the course of nearly 4 years in the criminal justice system, it is not justice for all in Delaware. It is about seemingly who you know, and that is not Delaware should be. That is not the Delaware that we should be accustomed to and look away from. I'm a grassroots advocate, and I will stand and I will go to each and every one of you, and I will have you know who I am and represent who I am. It is about who you know. It's not about who you know in the criminal justice system. It should be about the rule of law. And that is where I stand. And I will stand and fight and protect you, every citizen of Delaware. And I want to thank you. And my name is Patty Rickman, and I am running for Attorney General for each one of you.
Thank you, candidates. I just want to remind our support team, I did not see the clock for that last one, so we just want to make sure that we are providing equitable time for all the candidates as we indicated in the format rules. I do want to remind the candidates, and thank you, candidates, for your opening statements, that we do want to hear from you, your exchange of ideas and et cetera, and just want to be cautionary about making sure that we're respectful to all of the candidates and just monitor our speeches and our comments and et cetera, and inflammatory overtures. So just to be careful about that, we will caution you if we spend too much time in rebuttal. We really do want to get to the questions and want to hear what you have to say. So thank you so much for that. So if we could, again, we're going to start with the Attorney General. We'll go to Mr. Bensing afterwards, and then we'll go to Ms. Rickman. And here's a question, and I began this way before we gave you time to do statements, which is, we want people to know more about what the Office of the Attorney General is. Some of you alluded to that in terms of talking about that in your statements, but we have some questions here that I think will help us or help the audience get a better idea of what that is. So I'm going to begin with the Attorney General serves as both the state's chief law enforcement officer and legal counsel to the state government. How would you maintain independence when investigating or challenging actions taken by officials from your own political party? Let's just start there to level the playing field. So I'm going to start with Attorney General Jennings.
I have taken action time and again against public corruption, and I have not hesitated to prosecute those who break the law, no matter what their standing in the community, no matter how much money they have, or no matter the jobs that they have. It is critically important that an attorney general in our state and across the country be impartial when it comes to this. No one is above the law, and no one is beneath justice. In Delaware, we have full criminal jurisdiction, and I am proud of our prosecutors and the record that they have, and we all have in our office, lowering violent crime to record numbers. At the same time, we are fighting hard to make sure that we have a criminal justice system that is fair and equal for everyone, that we have criminal justice reform, and that everyone is treated equally under the law.
Thank you so much. Mr. Bensing, same question.
Thank you. And this is actually one of the core tenets of why I'm running for Attorney General, because I believe that as an Attorney General directly elected by the people, the role of the Attorney General is to represent the people's interests, not those of our government and public officials. And so it is incumbent upon an independent Attorney General to ensure that our state agencies are actually enforcing and upholding our constitutional rights. That's why, as legal director of the ACLU of Delaware, I found myself on the other side of these cases. It's exactly why I'm running for Attorney General, because I believe that our state officials can do a better job. It's why I sued our governor when we weren't enforcing or upholding our promise of a public education in the state of Delaware, and that resulted in an unprecedented amount of additional funds. It's why we sued our county executives for not addressing our property tax failures. And it's why I've sued our Attorney General to uphold the constitutional rights of those who are unhoused and have nowhere else to go.
Thank you so much. Ms. Rickman?
I actually echo a lot of what Dwayne said, but I will add to that. As Attorney General, I will also reinforce everything that Dwayne had mentioned, with the addition of, I filed a pro se litigation against the Delaware Department of Justice for all of these things that we're mentioning today. No one is above the law. I illustrated in this writ of mandamus actual evidence that proves and supports that they were issues that no one is above the law, that they should be held accountable for these things. Impartiality, judicial impartiality, contradiction of guilty pleas, connection with people in the position of power who should not be connected to criminal activity. I am Patty Rickman, and I'm going to support and defend the fact that we have those rights in Delaware. We should be standing and upholding these laws and rights.
Thank you. You guys are doing a great job following the time frame, so I appreciate that. Thank you so much. We're going to move to question 2. We're still under the umbrella of helping the audience understand what the office does and how they attempt to apply the law, or how it's expected that they apply the law. So given that the Attorney General has a branch of state government as their client, I'm going to start with you, Ms. Rickman, and go backwards this time. Given that the Attorney General has a branch of state government as their client, how can one represent the state and provide independent oversight of it at the same time without creating a conflict of interest? What are your thoughts about that?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Well, we have to uphold the law. We have to look at the situation as criminal justice system as a whole. We shouldn't be looking at the system where we would not uphold the law and uphold the criminal justice system. No one is above the law. And as it relates to what you're saying, ma'am, we have to be impartial. We are actually elected into this position to be impartial. And that is how I plan on leading by example. I plan on leading the Attorney General position, having my cabinet make sure that I'm educated and aware of what's going on. So I think that leading by example would be my answer.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Benson, same question.
Thank you. The Attorney General is independently elected by the people to serve the people's interests. And the oath that the Attorney General takes is to uphold the Constitution and the laws of our state. The governor has his own general counsel to help him. It's therefore the Attorney General's role to help advise our state agencies, our municipalities, our county governments to ensure that they are aligned with our constitutional promises. They serve that independent constitutional mandate. That is why we have a separate branch of our executive branch of government to serve in that independent role. They are the public interest litigator. They are the person who steps in the shoes of the public to represent their interests. And there's an important carve out in our state statute that ensures that promise is delivered. And that is unless there is a conflict. And I hold that the Constitution gives us our guiding light on the role that the Attorney General is to play. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Attorney General Jennings, can you answer that question?
Yes, thank you. The Attorney General of Delaware is truly the people's lawyer. We represent everyone in the state, regardless of where they come from in our state, regardless of the color of our skin, the size of our wallet, or the zip code where we live. And we have to be true to that promise each and every day. We also represent state agencies. And when state agencies take a position, it is the Attorney General's job to evaluate whether that's a position that can be defended under the law. And when it is, we represent the agency. When it's not, we don't, and we can take independent action. That's what an Attorney General does, because ultimately we answer to the people of the state. We don't answer to anyone else.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to start right here with you with the last question of having some understanding about the Office of the Attorney General. And we know that it's the Attorney General's race that we're talking about tonight, but certainly there's a complement and individuals that work within that office that represent the people as well on behalf of the Attorney General. So leading the Department of Justice involves managing hundreds of attorneys and staff. Describe your leadership style and how your professional experience has prepared you to manage a large organization. And a caveat to that also is, what does the Attorney General's office look like in composition when you think about gender and the aspects of community across the state of Delaware? Can you speak to that, please?
We are the largest law firm in the state, and we are the best law firm in the state. We are the most effective law firm in the state. We are full of talented attorneys, paralegals, social workers, investigators, and administrative staff. I am proud of every one of them. How do I lead them? I lead by example. I would never ask an attorney in our office to do something that I would not do myself. And when I joined the office many years ago as a very young prosecutor, I was the second female in the criminal division. She took me under her wing, mentored me, taught me how to try a case, and I tried my first rape case with her. I will never forget her. We have now a majority of female attorneys in our office and a majority of people who are leading units and divisions in our office are female. That's progress. That's important.
That is, I do want to follow up there though. What I asked is, and I appreciate your response, but also, and I referenced gender, but can you talk to any other aspects of composition that would advise us about the diversity of the office or the lack thereof?
Sure, we have a very diverse office, and we have a very big problem in the state of Delaware. Our bar is the hardest bar in the nation. It is discriminatory in the way it operates. I have been working long and hard to change that and to enable people barred in another state to come to Delaware, do public service without having to take our exclusionary bar. And I will never stop working to do that. That's what we do in Delaware.
Thank you. Mr. Benson, what are your thoughts about this question?
Thank you for that question. And I agree with the Attorney General that our bar is exclusionary and that is a major issue that we must address. As Attorney General, I will be on the forefront of that. As a public interest attorney with the ACLU of Delaware, I've had the challenge of recruiting young talent to come to Delaware to commit their career to doing civil rights work in a state that has no reciprocity anywhere else in the country. That is a challenge. And our Department of Justice right now is struggling not only to recruit that young talent to join that office and do the good work of serving the public interest, but is also compounded by the fact that there's a morale issue happening in our Department of Justice. We have got to have a fierce advocate at the top that knows how to recruit and energize the next generation of leaders. Delaware is a great place to practice law. And unfortunately, the Attorney General's had 8 years to fix this issue. I think it is a crisis, and we need to make sure that it gets addressed by our courts immediately.
Thank you. I'm going to regard that in part before we get to Ms. Rickman as a need for a rebuttal. So Attorney General, would you like to speak to that, please?
I absolutely would. There's no morale issue in our office. People are flocking to our office. We have been able to hire United States Department of Justice employees because they fled Donald Trump, who absolutely want to work in our office. They are second to none in terms of talent, ability, and passion. We have the best division directors that we have ever had in our office. People love the work they do. When I ask them questions about how they're doing, everyone says to me, Kathy, I wake up in the morning and I'm making a difference.
I'm sorry, that's time. Thank you for that. And we're going to now move to Ms. Rickman. Ms. Rickman, would you like to speak to this question, please?
Absolutely, I would love to. And Dwayne, again, I echo a lot of your sentiments. As a domestic violence survivor turned advocate, I would surround myself with a multitude of different diverse groups. I am out lesbian, so I would absolutely have the LGBTQ plus community members surrounding me. I am for ADA rights. That's one of my platforms. So I would have somebody to speak to ADA inclusion. I would have people of color, as I've stood for as a domestic violence survivor, and we know that domestic violence is nonpartisan and it does not discriminate against age, gender, socioeconomic status, or any reason. So I will, as a leader, as your next Attorney General, I will surround myself with those leaders and those ones that can speak from lived experience as to what needs to happen in the criminal justice system.
Thank you so much. So thank you all. I'm sorry, did someone say something?
Yes. Hey, can I just have an opportunity?
I'm sorry. There's not a need for a rebut there. So we're going to move on to the next session, which is commerce. Thank you for your passion. And at this point, I'm going to, given that Ms. Rickman was last on that, I'm going to go to her first on this particular one. So we're going to move now to commerce and thinking about that and how the justice system impacts that. So Ms. Rickman, if we could, let's talk about Delaware families. And we continue to face scams. I think I got a couple of calls since we've been on this event tonight. Fraud and identity theft. What new initiatives would you pursue to strengthen consumer protection? And this is the question starting with Ms. Rickman as last. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this question. As a cyber stalking victim and as someone in my previous career, what I did before, I owned a small accounts receivable company that we, as accounts receivable reps, we would go into facilities and small businesses and help work down their AR. And literally what I did was I had to look at the contract in Maryland and COMAR regulations as it applied to consumer fraud and insurance company fraud. That was literally what I did. And I stood toe to toe in one of the small DME facilities when they denied a big, huge insurance company denied claims outright, $1.3 million in 2001. And I stood toe to toe with 7 attorneys, me with my laptop, with the insurance contract, the payer contract, COMAR regulations, and I won for this DME company for them to stay active and relevant, for no seniors to be balance billed.
I'm sorry, your time is up. I appreciate your passion. Mr. Bensing, what say you on this issue?
Well, thanks, Sharice. And I'll actually pick up just where we left off. We've got to staff up our Department of Justice so that we can address all of these pressing issues. We have to have a fraud section that is fully staffed. And the Attorney General herself, just last year, said that there's a vacancy crisis at the Delaware Department of Justice. So we need to have these white-collar attorneys who have this experience to investigate fraud, and we have got to rein in the corporate greed and abuse that is happening right here in the first state. Delaware has more corporations than people. 2.1 million corporations call Delaware their home. So when they engage in corporate fraud and abuse, Delaware has to be the first place that the guardrails go up. And instead, when you see companies like Paramount violate antitrust laws, our Attorney General didn't join that case. And it's because we have a tradition of having a hands-off approach to reining in corporate greed. It's why we don't sue Elon Musk when he was at the head of Doge. And it's why we let OpenAI
Your time is up. Your time is up. I apologize. And I just want to caution you as well. You made a reference to attorneys in the Attorney General's office as white collar. Just please be mindful about that and in terms of referencing those individuals, because it gives a connotation overall. And while we can't rebut that specifically, this is the Attorney General's race. So let's just keep it as it relates to the Attorney General position, if we could. Thank you. And let's move now to the Attorney General. Jennings, if you would speak to that question, please, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Nobody's above the law and nobody's beneath justice, including large corporations that defraud Delawareans, large corporations that take advantage of them. And I have been at the forefront of lawsuits against those very large corporations. I sued everyone in the chain in Big Pharma, and we brought $250 million into Delaware to abate the opioid crisis as a result, saving countless lives. I have sued companies like Mercedes-Benz, not hesitated to do that when they cheated on emission standards and got nationwide settlement of millions of dollars. And I have sued Meta, I have sued Google, I have sued Amazon. I will not hesitate to sue anyone when it makes a difference to Delawareans in our state and their pocketbooks.
Thank you very much for that. And, this next question is speaking in reference to the Consumer Protection Unit. It's still in that whole framework of looking at how do we protect, Delaware consumers. So how would you use the Consumer Protection Unit to address corporate landlords engaging in deceptive practices?
My question.
Yes, it is. It's yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up because we are the only Attorney General, I am the only Attorney General in Delaware history who's gone after, in a very targeted way, bad landlords in our state. We got the worst landlord in our state out of business, and we got money back to the people he harmed. And we put him out of business. He had been in business for a very long time. Bad guy, he's done, it's over. And we have also gone after individuals who break the law when they own mobile home parks and they treat the people in those parks as less than human. There is often septic systems that fail and stuff bubbles up from the ground. We have taken them to court. We have won time and time again against them. They make other people's
I'm sorry,
lives
that's time, Attorney General. And I will move now back to Mr. Bensing. And would you answer that question, sir, please?
Sharice, I'm sorry, will you repeat the question?
Sure, I'm happy to. How would you use the Consumer Protection Unit to address corporate landlords engaging in deceptive practices?
Yes, thanks for that question. And that's certainly an area where we need to increase our enforcement areas. I think, I'm proud of the Attorney General for the case that she did bring against one of the worst landlords here in Delaware. Unfortunately, that's one of too few that need to be brought. There was a follow-up article by Spotlight Delaware talking about how so many complaints about really bad landlords who are abusing those who are having the worst unprecedented time finding secure housing in our state are not being held accountable for our housing laws. And that's why I was proud to support our tenants' rights bills getting passed so that tenants have a right to representation in eviction proceedings. And my last 15 seconds, Sharice, I just want to assure you that I'm not using a poor term of art. White collar crime is actually a separate division that the Department of Justice has. It's a term of art that we use in the criminal legal system. So thank you.
Having been part of the criminal legal system, I'm very clear you spoke to white collar attorneys. So in that regard, thank you for the clarification. And we move now to Ms. Rickman to answer that question, please. Ms. Rickman, are you with us?
I apologize. I had it on mute. I'm so sorry.
No worries. Would you want me to repeat the question?
No. I have the
Okay.
question.
right,
Thank you very
okay.
much. I applaud the Attorney General bringing $250 million for our opioid epidemic. As a sister of two addicts, whatever we can do to promote the wellness of addiction and our opioid and fentanyl epidemic in this state, I applaud. As your new Attorney General, what I plan to do is to ensure that no one is above the law. But instead of focusing on out-of-state lawsuits, how about making sure that our citizens are protected in state? So what I plan to do with the landlords is to surround myself with a team that looks at the criminal justice as a whole and make sure that we apply no one is above the law. No matter who you know, no matter who your relative is, the law speaks, the Constitution of Delaware speaks.
Thank you so much. And we're going to move to the last question in this area. And then I want you all to buckle up. We're going to move to equity and law enforcement after that section. So get prepared. This last one is that, and we all know we're experiencing that tonight. And it's how much do you expect AI to impact the office of AG? It's on you, Ms. Rickman.
I think that AI, has its plus and its minuses. It is revolutionary in information systems and gathering information and tools. As a domestic violence survivor, I utilize AI to help me file a pro se litigation lawsuit against the Delaware Department of Justice. But the downside is that it does not replace legal protection. You have to do your due diligence. You have to look into your information. You have to check sources and facts. You can't just trust ChatGPT and Claude and all of the other AI to replace our legal professionals. We need to make sure that we have stronger protections for all of our citizens. And as it relates to that, we need to have education, empowerment, and understanding of what AI is. And as your Attorney General, I plan to look into that and make sure that I implement things that protect our citizens.
Thank you so much. Mr. Bensing, what do you think about AI and how it impacts the office of the AG?
Yes, well, OpenAI was incorporated in Delaware as a nonprofit to protect and advance the interests of humanity. And there were two attorneys general in the room with Sam Altman and his billionaire class of tech bros to determine whether OpenAI should be able to proceed in converting from a nonprofit to a for-profit to pad Sam Altman's pockets. And our Attorney General allowed Sam Altman to proceed in that conversion without objection. I think that was the wrong decision. And just a few weeks ago, the Florida Attorney General actually sued Sam Altman and OpenAI for their obvious abuse and fraud against consumers. And so we have got to have the guardrails up. And it starts right here in the first state where these corporations are incorporated. We've got to hold these billionaire class of tech bros who control OpenAI and our artificial intelligence to make sure that we are protecting us, the people, humanity, for the next generation.
Thank you so much, Attorney General.
Thank you. Here's what happened with OpenAI. They are a nonprofit chartered in Delaware. They came to me and said they no longer wanted the nonprofit to oversee this world-changing technology. I told them no way, and I forced them to maintain the nonprofit's oversight of this technology. Now I will continue to have oversight over them and will hold them accountable when they step out of line. I am most especially concerned, along with my fellow attorneys general and my sister attorneys general, I am most concerned about child safety and the role that AI has in enabling children to become addicted and also in being predatory toward them. That's the role of the AG, and we are focused on AI because of its potential for doing great harm to children.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to just move it up a little bit here. When I say move around a little bit, it's been brought to my attention that Mr. Benson has not been able to start with a question. So we're going to move our process around a little bit. So let's move to now equity in law enforcement. We're going to start with you, Mr. Benson. And here's the question as it relates to this. Following several high-profile police shootings in Delaware, many residents have questioned whether the Attorney General can independently investigate law enforcement. How would you strengthen public confidence in those investigations? And this is for Mr. Benson.
Yes, following the police-involved shooting of Kadir Skinner, there's a lot of question about our Attorney General's office ability to independently investigate our police forces throughout the state. And in fact, that was the most recent of more than 20 police-involved killings of civilians that are statutorily required to be investigated by the Delaware Department of Justice Division of Civil Rights and Public Trust. And each of those over 20 cases, the division determined that it was justified force and no criminal charges were brought as a result of those police-involved killings. And the call for an independent investigation of these police-involved shootings demonstrates that DOJ has shifted from its role as an independent overseer of our police forces. And when our Attorney General describes herself as the top cop, she aligns herself with law enforcement and undermines that public trust. I believe no person, including a police officer, is above the law.
I'm going to consider that as a need for rebuttal. So Attorney General Jennings, would you like to speak to that, please?
Yes, no one is above the law or beneath justice. I have prosecuted scores of police officers when they break the law. I have prosecuted them for civil rights violations, a law that, by the way, I advocated for, drafted, and got passed. That is one of the strongest civil rights laws in our country. And I have prosecuted a police officer for violating the civil rights of a young man, and he went to jail for it. I have prosecuted police officers whenever they break the law.
I'm sorry, it's your time. And we're going to go to Ms. Rickman. Ms. Rickman, the question was about following several high-profile shootings in Delaware, many residents have questioned whether the AG can independently investigate law enforcement. How would you strengthen public confidence in those investigations?
Both of their sentiments. No one is above the law. And as your Attorney General, I will commit to a public timeline for investigation, not just we are looking into it. I will say what will be released when, the findings and when the investigation happens, and the conclusion. The specificity signals control. Vagueness signals spin. I will treat the family's access to information as a right, not a courtesy. I will name that explicitly. I will apply the identical standard and apply any citizen facing charges. No softer, no harder, because because the survivor of the system is not treated differently. What kills trust is predicting outcome or punishment. And I, as your AG, will ensure that no one is above the law. I will absolutely wait until the investigation is completed.
Time is up, Ms. Rickman. Thank you so much. And Attorney General, would you like to speak to the question? You did a rebut, but would you like to speak to the question as well?
Yes, I would. Thank you. I'm the reason that police officers wear body-worn cameras. I got that law, I drafted that law, and I got it passed in the legislature. And now every police officer in our state wears a body-worn camera. And as someone who has spent much of the last month meeting with the Skinner family, walking the neighborhood and managing that investigation, I have to say, I find it shameful that anyone would try to use the death of a teenager to score political points. That's number one. Number two, let's be accurate about my record. I have prosecuted 15 police officers when they broke the law. Number three, this is a job for a serious prosecutor. As I discussed with his family, Kadir is going to get the independent investigation that he deserves.
Thank you for that. And so while we're right here, let's stay right there, Attorney General. We're going to follow up on something that you made reference to about the body-worn cameras. And so this is a question. Do you think Delaware should establish a statutory deadline for releasing body-worn camera footage after critical incidents? If so, what should that timeline be?
Thank you for that question. I'm glad you asked it, because I do believe there should be a statute in Delaware. There should be a law in Delaware. And I've already talked to leadership in the House of Representatives to create that law. Colorado has an excellent law that gives it a deadline. And I think we're going to see a law in the next legislative session. But we have to be careful here. There has to be the right time to release body-worn camera video. That is generally the role that police departments and government agencies, the heads of government should do on their own, like then County Executive Matt Meyer did when he released body-worn camera video. But in the case of Kadir Skinner's death, we ended up being the ones who led on that, because we know there's a public demand, a legitimate public demand for transparency in this aspect. But a law across the board would make it much.
I'm so sorry, your time is up. But but I have to do a follow-up to make sure that we all get to the answers that we want. So is the answer that there should be a statutory deadline for the release or not?
There should be a statutory deadline for the release. Yes, I fully support it. Colorado already has the law. It works.
Thank you. So, Mr. Benson, what do you say about this issue?
Well, first, I would say it's not scoring political points to call for justice when it has been denied so frequently. And I want to be very clear about the record here. In all of the civilian killings at the hands of police officers under the Attorney General's terms as Attorney General, not one has resulted in criminal charges being brought. That's over 20 civilian deaths, no criminal charges. And so that is really hard. That record is hard to sell to Delawareans who don't trust all of their police force to have their best interests to protect and serve. And it's really hard when we conceal body-worn footage and we only release that footage. We have a history of only releasing that footage when it serves the best interests of our law enforcement officers. There is no reason why the body-worn footage statute was passed without policies in place that describe specifically and clearly what the public can expect to access those records that help us hold police officers accountable.
So I have to do a follow-up here. Are you espousing because a investigation or a charge is brought that a conviction is assumed or the due process should not be followed? You indicated that there was no conviction. So is the assumption that if a charge
I'm
is
sorry, no
brought?
charge, no charge.
Okay. All right. I see. I'm going to consider that as a rebuttal. And Attorney General, would you like to speak to that, please?
I sure will. I don't hesitate to prosecute the police when they break the law. I've done it 15 times in the course of my tenure as Attorney General, and I've taken those cases to trial. And what we have learned is that no one is above the law in Delaware. And I am adamant that justice comes when there is due consideration of the evidence in the case. I will follow the evidence, and that's how justice is done in our state.
Thank you. We're going to move now to Ms. Rickman. If you would like to speak to that question, please, ma'am.
Yes, Kadir Skinner, I feel like in all of this, we've lost our humanity in some parts, that we cannot speak honestly and transparently within our government systems to recognize that a young Black male has been killed. And I want to remind us of our humanity here in Delaware. But I also do agree that there should be a time frame in which a body cam footage should be been able to made available. But I also believe two things can be true. I think that we can support our law enforcement officers as a proper and a legal and a just investigation finalizes, as well as I believe that the body cam footage should be present and available.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to now, we'll start just there with you, just to make sure that we are fair in this. I want to talk a little bit, since we've spoke about a particular case without talking about a case, but this certainly was a young man of color as well. How would you, as Attorney General in this role, balance aggressive prosecution of violent offenders while avoiding over-policing communities of color?
Is that for me, ma'am?
It is. Yes, it is.
So I'm going to be the kind of AG leader that I'm going to go to communities that are dealing with some issues with gun violence. And I want to speak to the leaders of the community because I believe in being open and transparent. And I want to look at quantitative and qualitative research to be able to support my role because here's what we don't talk about. I am a 53-year-old white mother of three, and I will never be able to understand the conversations that some Black families have to have with their sons of color. And I need to meet our communities where they are. I need to be able to sit down and understand, because we are, as leaders, leading by example. When we lead, we lead effectively, and our youth are paying attention. They're seeing the regurgitation of us pointing our fingers unnecessarily, Republican versus Democrat versus independent. We are all one in Delaware.
Thank you so much. Let's go now to Mr. Benson.
Thank you. Well, I'm not new to this issue. I sued the Wilmington Police Department years ago for race-based stops without reasonable suspicion or probable cause that resulted in arrests. And as we know, an arrest does not just vanish at the charging decision. That arrest goes on people's records and can have a lifetime of consequences. And so that initial police interaction must be justified from the beginning. And our lawsuit, the ACLU joined with the NAACP of Delaware, and we sued the Wilmington Police for their unconstitutional stops of Black and brown people in the city of Wilmington. And that case was before the Third Circuit. On the issue of whether the NAACP has standing to bring a case against the Wilmington Police Department on the same day that Kadir Skinner was killed as the result of a police interaction. So this is an issue that I care very deeply about and have for many years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Attorney General Jennings.
Sure, thank you. When I came into the office of Attorney General as the Attorney General, my goal was to make sure that everyone was treated equally under the law. And that meant that we needed to look into issues of over-policing and prosecution. That's why I changed our policies in our office to make sure that we were treating people fairly under the law, regardless of the color of your skin and regardless of the size of your wallet or the zip code where you live. It is an ongoing process always. And we have worked with the police very closely in this state to get at gun violence in our state. And at the same time, we have prosecuted the police when they have broken the law. It's important that we engage in community involvement, and we do that in our office.
I'm sorry, that's time. Thank you. I'm going to go now to Mr. Bensing on this question, and it's kind of a follow-up of what we've been talking about. So in these cases, or just in general, do you support creating an independent office or a special prosecutor to investigate police use of force incidents? Mr. Bensing?
We already have that office. It's the Division of Civil Rights and Public Trust, and they're statutorily authorized and obligated to investigate each and every excessive use of force used by police officers throughout the state of Delaware. And I applaud our Attorney General for ensuring that the results of those investigations are available to the public. I think where I take issue is that we need to staff up that division. I think it is so important that when we have a violation of our public trust, which occurs when there is a police involved incident of excessive force, that we are investigating those as fully and quickly as possible, because we've got to regain that trust. Those community partnerships that we were just talking about cannot be developed if our communities do not trust the police officers that have taken the oath to protect and to serve. And so I want to ensure that we address all of those issues as quickly, transparently as possible.
Thank you. Ms. Rickman? What do you think about the Office of Special Prosecutor, Independent Office of Special Prosecutor in the instance of police use of force incidents?
I echo Dwayne's sentiment. We already have that established. I believe in public transparency, government transparency. It is one of the things that we have to have within our government systems, within the criminal justice system. I believe that if there is a necessity to create a separate entity, we can look into that, certainly. But I also believe that there is a holistic approach as well. Like I talked about earlier, getting mentorships, leading by example, having government transparency and the effective leadership. But I also want to speak to your question directly. I think that it is incumbent on the Attorney General to ensure that the investigation is done under our law, under black letter law. And if there is any reason to see that there needs to be a further investigation or someone is to be held accountable, that is done.
I'm sorry, that's time. Attorney General Jennings, what do you say about this office?
That's why I created the Division of Civil Rights and Public Trust, to ensure that it was independent. And there's a bright line between our criminal division, which is our prosecuting office, and the Division of Civil Rights and Public Trust. And it is being run by excellent prosecutors and investigators. They are entirely independent from the criminal division. And that's how it must be, because they deal with the difficult cases that they have to put together, the difficult assessments that they have to make, including police use of force. And as a result of the creation of that division and their work, we have brought multiple charges against over a dozen police officers in this state when they violate use of force and they harm other individuals.
Thank you. Okay, final round. We're going to talk now about, we'll start with you, Attorney General Jennings, in that should you be reelected in this role, what would be your first 3 top priorities for this role?
Well, my first priority is always to increase public safety. And while we have reduced gun violence and violent crime generally to historic lows, there is more work to be done. Guns are the #1 cause of death for children in our country. That's shameful. That's awful. And we need to keep working to reduce gun violence. And we need to make sure that we are holding the gun lobby accountable. I have spent my entire career doing that. I have spent years and years getting the legislature to pass common sense gun safety laws. And I'm not done yet. And I am confident that while guns are not the cause of violent crime, they certainly make this worse. They make this problem much worse. And we've got to keep working to make sure gun violence is reduced more so in our country, especially children.
Thank you. Thank you. I got your point. Thank you so much. I think the audience did as well. Mr. Rickman, what are your thoughts in terms of should you be elected? What are your top 3 priorities for the position?
Well, my top 3 are going to be public safety. I'm going to ensure that we continue to advocate for opioid and fentanyl continued success. I'm going to ensure that as your next Attorney General, that we are going to, as I stated, I'm going to lead it by example, and I'm going to go into these communities. I want to walk through these communities and speak to the police departments and speak to the mentors and the leaders in the community. And I want to know, and I want to hear from these leaders, and I want to know what they feel like the issues are. Because how are we going to know as leaders if we don't speak to the communities and have community outreach? So those are the things that I want to implement as Attorney General. I want to also ensure public transparency. I really, as the leader, I want to ensure that we have public transparency so that no one is above the law, and so that these crimes are adjudicated under our law, under our Constitution. There should be no privilege and power, no amount of money, no elected official. No one is above the law. And as your next AG, I'm going to ensure, as an advocate and as a domestic violence survivor who has been through the criminal justice system, that no one is above the law, and I will speak to that.
Thank you. Mr. Benson.
So I think the first thing that we need to do is address the staffing shortages that are at the Delaware Department of Justice to ensure that we can vigorously enforce all of the laws that our Delaware General Assembly has entrusted the department to enforce, so that we can rein in corporate greed and corporate wrongdoers who call Delaware their home, so that we can independently investigate our government officials when they violate the public trust, and so that we can vigorously enforce our civil rights protection. So that first thing is an overarching leader of the department that can recruit and staff up those divisions that we count on. The second is, I think, what Patty was just talking about, the transparency issue. One issue we haven't talked about tonight is the Attorney General's role in FOIA, Freedom of Information cases. And I really want to ensure that our Department of Justice is making sure that our government operates as transparently as possible. And finally, I'll take my civil rights career to the Delaware Department of Justice to vigorously fight for all of our civil rights protections.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So that really was a bit of a flag, and I'm going to do a rebuttal in part to the Attorney General. If you could, Attorney General.
I believe in transparency. That's why every time the Division of Civil Rights and Public Trust issues a use of force report, we put it out there for the public to see. That's why I put body-worn cameras on every police officer in the state. That's why I advocated for police reform. And that's why I go out in our communities and I hear directly from the public about what they want done with their criminal justice system and with the police. We have done major criminal justice reform This work is never done.
Thank you so much. So, and I did say that was final before we went to voters, but there's something that I want to speak to. I come to this forum as a former juvenile justice director for the state of Delaware as well, and I just wanted to ask, what reforms, if any, would you pursue within Delaware's juvenile justice system so that they do not become pipelines, if you will, into the adult system? So I'm going to start with Mr. Bensing. We'll go to Ms. Rickman, and then we'll come back to you, Attorney General Jennings. Mr. Bensing, what are your thoughts about juvenile justice in the state of Delaware?
This is such an important issue to me. As a former educator, I taught middle school in Philadelphia, and I see our young people as the future of our state, and remember those amazing classroom memories that I made with those students. And so I firmly believe in diversion programs. I had the opportunity as a young person to participate in a program called Teen Court, and offenders in that program were also participants in that program. And it instilled a belief in our criminal legal system, that we have a system that is designed of and by the people, that everyone has a role in our civic society. It helped to serve as an educational opportunity for our students. It's why I'm a volunteer with our DNREC, Delaware, our DELREC, Delaware Legal Professionals program here in Delaware, to mentor our young students. And it's why I'm a professor at the Delaware Law School in our Dignity Rights Clinic, because I believe our diversion programs and second chances are the most important possibilities.
Thank you so much for your passion, and thank you for your response to that question. Ms. Rickman, what are you thinking?
This is an excellent question, something that I'm very passionate about, not only as a mom of three, but as a person that in my youth, I belonged to a mentorship program called Campus Life, which was Youth for Christ. And without that program, I might not be sitting here today. I had a counselor by the name of Sarah. She was of color, and she stood by me. I was had a lot of anxiety as a kid, and she worked through it with me. She sat down and she laid down the foundation of what it would look like for me to achieve any goal that I set in motion. And that's why I fundamentally believe in mentorship programs, because Sarah didn't just do that for me. She did that for so many other people, so many other kids that were, I grew up right out of Baltimore City. My life could have gone in many different directions. And our youth is our future. And look at what they're looking at. They're looking at the constant pointing of the fingers, the redirection. How is that effective leadership? How does that mentor our
Thank you.
youth?
That's your time, and I appreciate your passion. Attorney General Jennings.
Look, the children in our state are our future. They matter more than anything else. I had the honor this morning of going to Read Aloud Delaware and reading to 4- and 5-year-olds. It was really soul lifting, quite frankly. These children just love having books read to them, and the questions they were asking were fantastic. And by the end, they were hugging me and everyone else who was in the room, and nothing is better than that. And we can't sacrifice any child in our state. Every child matters. And we have to help them get an education. We have to devote our resources to them. We have to make sure that the government is taking care of our children and making sure that they have the bright futures that they're entitled to.
Thank you for that response. And now we're going to move to questions that have come from voters. And this question that has come from voter is about the American Disabilities Act. The ADA was passed 36 years ago this week. This is again from voters. And still 54% of polling places fail to meet parking accessibility requirements through states. Two-Quarters sue for its failure to provide adequate special education services to incarcerated students with disabilities, and progressing on installing or upgrading curb ramps, and continuous accessible statewide sidewalk is slow. How do you address these shortfalls? So we're talking here about accessibility. We're talking about educational services to incarcerated students who may have disabilities of sorts, and also yes, it's accessibility, installing, upgrading curb ramps, things of that nature, and sidewalks and et cetera. So I'm going to start with you, Attorney General, in terms of trying to answer this question from one of our voters about the ADA frailties in the state of Delaware, is I think what this person is attempting to say.
There need to be a lot more government resources devoted to compliance with the ADA. Most importantly, what I heard was that it's difficult for some people to make it to the polls. The right to vote is the most important right that we have. Every other right is dependent upon that right to vote. And so that's why we now have early voting and we have permanent absentee voting, two rights that we have in Delaware that I defended before the Delaware Supreme Court. And with permanent absentee voting, a voter may not need to go to the polls. I have heard from people who dearly want that law to continue in our state. We've been working hard to protect the right to vote, but we need to make sure that people with disabilities have the right to vote and that they are not disenfranchised along the way.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Mr. Bensing, and then we're going to have you, Ms. Brickman, tell us what your thoughts are last on this question.
I'm a civil rights lawyer, so enforcing the ADA has been something I've been doing my entire career. When the ACLU of Delaware convened Delaware's first voting rights coalition, our disability advocates were a part of that group, were part of that community that helped advance the voting rights to ensure that everybody has equal access to participate in our elections. When I joined the ACLU of Delaware on behalf of our disadvantaged students, one of the three subgroups were our students with special education needs, because we are underfunding the opportunities for them to obtain a high quality, adequate education in the state of Delaware. It's core to who I have been. Particularly, I wish we could talk a lot more about voting rights and preserving those rights for people now as corporations are seeking the opportunity to participate in our elections here in Delaware, and fighting on behalf of those who are incarcerated to access their civil rights protections has been core to my entire civil rights career.
Thank you. That's time. Thank you so much. Ms. Rickman, what are your thoughts?
A great question. ADA rights is not a negotiation. It's law, and it has been law for 34 years. As a parent of an ADA child, my youngest daughter has selective mutism. This is near and dear to my heart. I have stood up for ADA protections. I have volunteered with some groups within Sussex County to work and to listen and to lean into all the ADA laws and to make sure that ADA accessibility is not only protected, but it is afforded to everyone that needs it. I will advocate for anyone to be able to facilitate our constitutional right to vote within their ADA accessibility needs.
Thank you so much. I'm going to give you, Ms. Rickman, and you, Mr. Bensing, if you feel as if there were any remarks made that you'd like to do rebuttal before we go to closing statements, that you have the opportunity. And we'll start with you, Ms. Rickman.
Well, I want to speak to government transparency and accountability. Certainly, that has not been my experience with my criminal justice experience with being a domestic violence survivor. And me as an AG, I want to make sure that we lead with government transparency and accountability. I want to make sure that the letter of the law is sought out and adjudicated for all victims of violence, sexual assault, intimate partner violence, and domestic violence. It should not just be about who you know or who you take a photo with, or who you legislate with, or who is funding anybody's campaign. It should be about government transparency, accountability, and governmental trust. That is what we are afforded under our Constitution in Delaware, and that is what each and every citizen should be afforded and allocated within our state law.
Thank you. Mr. Bensing?
The only thing I think I would clarify is just the office's role with FOIA and the Freedom of Information Act. I've had to sue the state of Delaware time and again to access records that ought to be public records available to the taxpayers here in Delaware, to ensure that when we're outsourcing the work of Delaware Department of Justice attorneys to for-profit law firms, that those procurement and bidding and billing invoices are provided to Delawareans, so we know what we're paying for at the expense of fully funding our Delaware Department of Justice. I've had to sue to ensure that Delawareans have the names of their police officers who are entrusted to protect and serve. These are cases that the Attorney General's office has served, representing the agency's interest in preserving privacy of our public records that we have access to. And so I think transparency is the best disinfectant. Sunlight keeps us all in a free and fair democracy.
And we'll leave it there. We're going to move now to closing statements. Just want to thank the candidates for their engagement and the passion in which they brought to this dialogue. So we're going to do this in this order. We're going to start with Ms. Rickman. We'll go to Attorney General Jennings, and then we'll go to you, Mr. Bensing, for your closing remarks. So, Ms. Rickman, you have the floor.
My name is Patty Rickman, and I am a candidate for Attorney General, and I will earn each and every one of your votes. I am a domestic violence survivor turned advocate, and I have been within the criminal justice system enough to know that it is not only broken, it is decimated. It does not work for each victim like it's supposed to do. It is supposed to, the law is not a negotiation tactic. The law and the Constitution should work and afford it to work for each and every citizen. And I will stand and I will fight for each and every citizen. And I know that, not a lot of people know my name, but I think that that is a strength because I am just like every one of you. And I will meet with you and I will not wait. I think it's almost been 4 years to respond to an email from somebody who has been stalked and harassed and violated a protection of abuse order from my abuser. I would not wait to respond to an email from victims who are scared, who don't know where to turn, who don't know the organizations on where to lean into. I will be your AG and I will speak for all of those things. I will stand and protect you. I will make Delaware safe again. I will have conversations, uncomfortable conversations, and reach across party aisle because even though I'm a Democrat, I represent all. And that's not just a mantra, that is who I am.
Thank you so much. Ms. Jennings?
Thank you. I want to thank you, Sharice, and Chair Brady for all of your work in putting this forum together. It's been a very good experience and I hope educational. I said at the beginning that I'm not here to argue with other Democrats. I'm here to talk about my record and the present crisis that Trump has set on all of us. I respect both of my opponents and I wish these were simpler times, but they're not. I am running because this is a crisis and we cannot afford to learn on the job. In my tenure, we've recorded the 6th safest years on record, the lowest recidivism rates on record, the lowest prison population in decades, the largest corporate settlements in Delaware history. We stood up to the gun lobby. We fought for real change in the legislature. We've taken on lawless president when nobody else would. We have won the fights we cannot afford to lose. I am not backing down now, and I am not done yet. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Mr. Bensing, your final remarks.
Thank you, Sharice, for moderating tonight's debate, and thank you to everyone tuning in. Democracy takes showing up at forums just like this and staying informed, demanding better. And Delaware Democrats are fortunate to have a real choice on September 15th. That was fast.
Well, thank you. Definitely it was. I just want to say we want to close out this evening in that thank you. So were you done, Mr. Bensing?
No.
Okay, so I'm not sure why you stopped, but you might. You
didn't hear the buzzer go off?
I did not. So I did not hear.
Am I hearing things already?
You had more time. Is that correct? Our timekeepers?
Yeah, it looked like there was an error with the timer on that one.
Okay, Mr. Benson, there
Thanks,
was an
Dylan.
error. We're going to start again. So go
Now,
right
Sharice,
ahead.
I
and
thought
tell
I
me-
was making up noises in my head.
Well, I was going to go along with you if you were done, but let's start again. So would you please give us your final remarks? Thank you.
Thanks so much. I just want to thank you and the Delaware Democrats for tuning in tonight. And we're fortunate to have a real choice in this primary. The contrast is clear. We have one candidate defending the status quo of the past and another with a battle-tested track record we need for the future. For the last 6.5 years at the ACLU, I haven't just talked about our values. I've taken on powerful interests in court and won. These are actual cases filed by me in Delaware courts, not group projects I've signed my name on and take credit for. As your Attorney General, I will tackle corporate greed. I will deliver independent government oversight and fiercely protect our civil rights. We cannot defeat the threats of tomorrow by relying on the political traditions of yesterday, cozying up to the billionaire class and political insiders. I may be outspent, but I will never be outworked. I've been working hard my whole life, from sleeping on my grandma's floor to standing up for Delawareans in court. I promise to bring that same relentless hustle to the AG's office every single day. The relay race for justice continues, and it's time for a new generation to carry the torch. Join us at dwaynebensing.com. Thank you. Good night.
Are you sure now, Mr. Benson?
I'm sure now.
Very good. I just want to say thank you to all the candidates for your passion, for your courage to run for this. We know that it's not easy. We wish you the very best in your continued campaigning. Thank you to the audience for your attention today in this matter. And we hope that you've learned a great deal about the Office of the Attorney General, the top cop in our state of Delaware, and its responsibilities. You've learned from all of the candidates here in terms of the areas of interest to them. They've all responded to everything that we've asked them, and I thank them for that. And then also, very much, we hope that this helps you to make an informed choice at the voting poll. So with that, we're going to thank these candidates. We're going to be back in about 5 minutes or so, take a break, and then we're going to come to the Treasurer's office. So thank you, Attorney General. Thank you, Mr. Benson, and thank you, Ms. Rickman. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Steph, are you there? Can you hear me? Hello. Greetings, everyone. Those of you who've been with us, thank you for returning. We are now going to begin the Office of Treasurers forum tonight. And we're going to start again with making sure that we have the form rules identified for everyone. The opening statements shall be 2 minutes per candidate. Question responses will be 1 minute per candidate with 15-second warnings, and then 30-second rebuttals. Rebuttals will be permitted when a candidate is directly referenced by another candidate. The moderator retains discretion over rebuttal, recognition, and timing. And now we shall begin with opening statements of our candidates. Can we have our candidates, please? I see Mr. Lawson. How are you, sir? You can begin with your opening statement.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Ted Lawson. I am running for Delaware State Treasurer, and I'm excited for the opportunity to earn your support. First and foremost, I would love to thank the Delaware Democratic Party, our moderator today, and all the fabulous Democrats from across the state for joining us this evening. Your consistent commitment to our state and to our democracy really matters. As a little bit of background on me, I was lucky enough to marry a wonderful woman from Milford, and after our wedding, Sarah was kind enough to move like a million times with me as I flew 127 combat missions as a light attack helicopter pilot in combat, competed in the World Championships for Team USA, and then earned my MBA and my JD from the University of Pennsylvania. After all of those different moves, Sarah and I chose to raise our 4 young kids, Caroline, Jack, Emily, and William, who many of you know as Pork Chop, here in Delaware, and to start an investment management company. And so I'm running for treasurer to use that lifetime of experience to take great care of our neighbors. And if I'm lucky enough to be elected, I promise to do 3 things. First, I fought Al-Qaeda abroad, and I will fight Trump here. Second, I have the opportunity to manage hundreds of millions of dollars for fellow Delawareans. I will apply that same thoughtful investment approach to our state's $8 billion portfolio to ensure that it benefits all Delawareans. And finally, as the treasurer of the Delaware YMCA, so all the different YMCAs up and down the state, I recently helped implement a financial literacy program through all of our branches. I will ensure as treasurer that we expand those opportunities for financial literacy and support to all of our most vulnerable populations. So I'm excited to have a thoughtful and constructive conversation about one of the state's most impactful offices tonight. Thanks.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much, sir. So we're moved now to Mr. Miller.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Miller. I'm a native Delawarean and proud Democrat, a candidate for state treasurer. I was born and raised in Sussex County, graduated from Cape and Lopin High School, and earned a degree from Delaware State University. For 33 years, I've owned and operated Miller's Lawn Service and Taxman Accountant Service, while balancing budgets, making payrolls, filing taxes, and helping Delaware families and small businesses plan for their future. That's real-world financial experience I'll be bringing to the treasurer's office on day 1. People often ask me, what does the state treasurer do? The treasurer safeguards billions of dollars for Delaware. We make sure that all the finances are paid. We pay the state's bills. We work with a 9-member cash management policy board to invest state funds responsibly. I can't do this by myself. It's a collaborative approach with a 9-member board. It takes experience, judgment, and accountability. My priorities are clear. First, financial literacy for every Delaware student, so every child learns the basics of banking, budgeting, credit, and long-term investing. I want to bring hands-on financial education to every school district throughout that will partnership with local banks. Second, the Delaware Earns program. Too many hardworking Delawareans don't have access to a retirement plan. Delaware Earns gives workers a simple, secure way to save through payroll deductions. I want to expand their awareness so many people can build on long-term security. My vision is simple. Teach every student how money works, give every worker a chance to save, and protect every taxpayer dollar. With 33
Thank you, sir.
years
I'm
of
sorry
real
that's your
experience.
time, Mr. Miller. We'll hear more from you. So thank you so much for that. And now we'll go to Mr. Smith.
Good evening. My name is Michael Alexander Smith. And yes, I know this race has a Mike Miller, a Mike Ramone, and me. And as I'm sure many of you know, there's even a Republican Michael Smith in Delaware politics. Just to clarify, I am not him. So let me make this easy. I am the Democrat, Michael Smith, lifelong Democrat. And I'm the only economist in this race. And that second part matters because, frankly, look at the situation we're in right now. Washington, D.C. is currently run by people who are actively working to destabilize state governments like ours, threatening to withhold federal funding, attacking programs to help families save for college and for retirement, and injecting chaos into markets where Delaware's money is invested. And that is our money, money for our students, for our workers, for our retirees, money that keeps this state running. As treasurer, I will stand between that chaos and your family's financial security. I earned my master's degree in public policy economics, and I have worked for some of the nation's leading economic research organizations, focusing on how we can make the American economy work for working families. I also started a nonprofit that helped Delawareans cut the energy bills and put money back into their pockets. And while working inside the Delaware House Democratic Caucus, I got to see how our government works and where it doesn't. These experiences are why several Democratic legislators, including two co-chairs of the Bond Bill and Joint Finance Committees in Dover, are endorsing this campaign. So when the questions get technical tonight, watch what happens. Delaware doesn't need a caretaker for its treasurer. It needs an economist who's ready to stand up and fight back, both against the Trump administration and Wall Street's recklessness. I'm the Democrat, Michael Smith, and on September 15th, I'm asking for your vote.
Thank you, candidates, so much. We're going to start with our questions, and what we're going to do, I think we said this in the beginning of the program, but we're going to try to do about 40 minutes or so of questions that we pre-selected, and then we're also going to have an opportunity for questions to come from our voters, and so we're going to proceed in that way. So I'm going to start back with you, Mr. Smith. You ended, so I'm going to begin with you, and we're going to start a bit about and not assuming everybody understands what the Office of the Treasurer actually does. And so I want to talk about that a little bit and with the candidates as well. So the state treasurer serves as the state's chief financial officer, overseeing billions of taxpayer dollars. What do you believe is the greatest financial challenge facing Delaware over the next decade? And what would be your strategy to address it?
Yeah, well, we have a short-term and a long-term problem. Over the past year and a half, we have seen unprecedented levels of chaos and pettiness and cruelty coming from the White House. Donald Trump and his allies in Congress are attempting to gut public services and punish states like ours that refuse to fall in line with their agenda. We just saw last year that Donald Trump is willing to choke off federal funding for our schools and let people starve at a moment's notice. We need to be prepared. As treasurer, I would protect our state's financial stability by maintaining healthy liquidity buffers and stress testing our investments to ensure that we are robust to any future disruptions in federal funding, which makes up nearly 23% of our state spending. This is particularly a big budget items like SNAP and education funding, as well as Medicaid. That is the difference between just reacting to chaos and being ready for it. And being ready is the job. On the long term, we also need to diversify our revenue. So if we have a Democratic president in the 2028 cycle, that we are not dependent too much on one source or two sources of income.
Thank you. We're going to go to Mr. Miller, and then we're going to come back to you, Mr. Lawson.
Yes, our state, is right now facing a little bit of a crisis because since COVID, we were in flux with federal funding. We were We were doing much better. Monies were coming into our state. And now, with the budget that's coming up this year, I think we're outspending our increase. We're only going to have maybe a 1.5% increase in our monies, but we're outpacing ourselves. So we need to look at our dollars harder. We need to make sure that the state treasurer is investing, but we really need to rely to make sure that our cash management board is looking at policies, and we also need to see who we're going to give those monies to invest, which managers that are going to manage the money, like if it's JP Morgan or if it's BlackRock. We need to make sure that we do diversify, and we need to make sure that there's other people out there who can handle our monies and not just them.
Thank you so much. What do you say, Mr. Lawson?
Well, thank you very much. I think there are three primary and large financial challenges facing our state right now. First and foremost, as you know, Mr. Smith mentioned, the current chaos in Washington, D.C. complicates processes across the country for all states looking to take care of their folks. There's a reliance on out-of-state revenue. And then finally, the fact that working families can no longer afford to make ends meet on $50,000 to $60,000.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much, all of you, for your answers. And I want to double back a little bit when we're talking about what this office does. You guys, you went right in, which was great. But how would you redefine the office to have a greater impact on residents' everyday lives? I mean, we know what it is now, but you know, what would you do in terms of your fingerprint? What would you do in terms of a blueprint for redefining what the office does currently? That's for you, Mr. Lawson. Sorry.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I think when we are confident in the ability to invest our funds correctly based on experience of having invested money for other people before, when we're confident in the ability to run and expand financial literacy programs because we've done it before and we can help our most vulnerable populations, then we have the opportunity to address the economic challenges both that our Delawarean residents are facing. When one job, two jobs, and even now sometimes three jobs doesn't allow us to make ends meet, it's the opportunity for us to use some of the programs within the treasurer's office, like the Stand By Me program, which is a one-on-one financial literacy and support program to help folks think about their futures. And it used to be savings, now it's survival. It's the ability to help our families from this week to next week, from this month to next month.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Yes, when we talk about a stamp, my main program is financial literacy. And we're talking about the future. We're not talking about here and now, but if we get this correct now with our children who are in elementary school and coming up through high school, where they're mandatory, where they learn how to bank, invest, learn portfolios, everyone's not going to college. Okay, so now we have a situation where we have Delaware Earns, right? So with Delaware Earns, it gives everyone an opportunity to save and invest. We have nearly 180,000 people who could still be on that program, where only 12 or 13 are on it now. So I want to, as my stamp, I want to try to have people get into Delaware Earns who aren't working traditional jobs where they have a 401k. I want them to be able to earn and invest as little as $25. And I want to have a financial literacy for our students in schools.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I really want to build upon the foundation that Treasurer Davis has laid over her 8 years as being treasurer. I think there's a lot of really great progress that we've made. Mike Miller has already mentioned Delaware Earns, a fantastic, relatively new program, state-sponsored retirement plan for people who don't have access to a traditional employer-sponsored retirement plan. Something I'm sure we'll discuss more as the debate continues. But also really making sure that people know about the fantastic programs that are available. We can talk about ABLE accounts later. They just increased the eligibility. So if you have a disability that started before age 46, you may now be eligible for an an Able account, getting the word out there. We're in a very different communications ecosystem, and that's where I think I can provide a lot of benefit to the treasurer's role, not only on the economics perspective, but also how we communicate to everyday workers, everyday students and retirees, people who may not know that the state of Delaware has a treasurer, let alone that they're elected on the ballot in November. It's going to be important to make sure everyone knows about the great opportunities that our state can provide and what the treasurer can do for them.
So stay right there for a minute. Delaware currently enjoys strong credit ratings. So what specific decisions would you make to protect those ratings while continuing to invest in infrastructure, education, housing, public safety, all the things that are essential for communities, for thriving communities?
Is that to me?
Yes.
All right, great. Yeah, we are very fortunate in Delaware. After a lot of hard work, we've been able to maintain a AAA credit rating. We're one of, I believe, only 13 states in the nation that have a AAA credit rating. And if you go look at states that have, subprime credit ratings, it gets really difficult to have those capital improvement projects, right? Whether you're building a new school, whether you're building a new highway, the interest rates that you're getting on your loans are very expensive. And I understand that doesn't really sound like it has a direct impact on everyday voters, but it does, because that means that we're going to have to raise more taxes, or we're going to have to decrease the quality of our services because we're going to have to pay more interest. So it's incredibly important, as I mentioned earlier, that we have liquidity buffers, that we have stress testing of our investment portfolio, that on the revenue side and the General Assembly side, I should say, that we are having a rainy day fund and a stabilization fund that are well funded, so that if there's some black swan event, if there's a market downturn, we are prepared for whatever comes next.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson, what do you think?
We protect and fortify our AAA rating by doing the right thing and not the comfortable thing, especially when no one's looking. On our investment side, that includes aligning our partnerships with our democratic values. It means updating our debt policy that is still built on a 1972 framework, and it's about improving the transparency of who we're investing in and with whom we're investing. On the programmatic side, it means expanding the programs that make each and every one of our individual Delawareans stronger and more capable to participate within the economy through our Delaware Stand By Me program. It means updating our Delaware Earns program and increasing the ability of our residents to access the ABLE plan and the significant set of benefits that our state provides. A strong Delaware has a strong credit rating.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Yes, we do have a strong AAA rating, and I aim to help keep it there by working with legislators, by helping to reduce our debt. We need to look at reducing our debt. We need to have that built more into the budget. As I said earlier, we're outpacing ourselves when it comes to monies that are coming in. We might need to look at lowering our budget in changing up the way that we spend money in the state of Delaware. We also need to look at some of the different money managers that we're hiring. There may be some that could earn us more money on our dollars. On some of the special projects last year, I think we made roughly $168 million in interest on some of our money. And so we're doing well, but we can do better. And I want to make sure that I'm looking at all the money and all the different avenues that we can actually invest into.
Thank you. So let's just start right here with you for this next question and talk a bit, candidates, about racial wealth gaps. Let's make it plain. What role do you think the treasurer plays in addressing Delaware's racial wealth gap and pay equity? And let me add as a caveat to that, that today, July 21 is Equal Pay Day for Black women in the country, in comparison to March 26th of this year, which was for the majority or white women in this country, and compared to how much is earned on the dollar in comparison to non-Hispanic males or white males per se. What do we do about that?
Well, it's a terrible demographic. But when you look at the overall, you look at men and women working, there is a disparity. But what, the state treasurer sits on the board of pardons. And I want to say that because this is very important. When you have a Black man or woman who want to get back into the workforce, it's hard to get in there when you have a record. So your income that you're going to make is very limited on what you can make. And so I'm not saying everyone deserves a pardon, but the laws and the loopholes in order to get a pardon is very hard. You have to go through a lot of hoops and chases to track down your record, go to the court, get the arresting officer, get everything together. I want to streamline that so people can get pardons, get better jobs, get people back into the society and working.
So I have to expand a bit on the question in that, and I appreciate your passion about the pardon board. I promise you, we're going to have a question following up as it relates to that. I would espouse to you and to the candidates that Equal Pay Day, being today, is about all Black women. So it's not just individuals who may require a second chance or et cetera, but all Black women in the country and et cetera in comparison to that. So I give you an opportunity if you want to speak anything else to that issue before we go to Mr. Smith and Mr. Lawson.
Listen, I believe that everyone should have equal pay. Black women, Black men, equal pay all the way across the board. What do we do about that? I know that under the Trump administration, we lost the affirmative action where, is trying to get people into work and giving someone who has the same abilities to do the job, we've kind of like passed over them. They've taken that away from us. And so hopefully Democrats will be back in power and we can put some of those things back in place.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Analyzing ways to combat income and wealth inequality was one of my research areas when I was at the Progressive Policy Institute. And as an economist, I know that wealth inequality compounds on itself. Every year that a family is shut out from saving money, that wealth gap, doesn't just sit still, it grows. The next treasurer has to build upon and create new on-ramps for wealth generation, increase seed funding for our students' education savings accounts, boosting enrollment in Delaware Earns for workers without a retirement plan. Compound interest is a very powerful force, and my job is to make sure that it's working for every Delaware family and not against them. And particularly for our low-income families, I am the only candidate in this forum who is pushing for a baby bonds program. For every Delaware child born into a family enrolled in Medicaid, they would get $2,000 deposited into an account that grows with the child. And then when they turn 18, they can use that money for a down payment for a house or for higher education or to start a business. And that will not only decrease the wealth gap, but specifically the racial wealth.
Thank you. And just before we go to Mr. Lawson, I want to say to you, Mr. Smith, is that at times your mic is kind of coming in and out a little bit.
Be a little closer to the mic.
Make sure yeah, that's much better. So thank you so much. Mr. Lawson, what do you say about the racial wealth gap and the inequity as it relates to Black women and others in the state of Delaware and nationally?
Delaware and our elected officials have the direct responsibility to care for all people and all residents across our state. Opportunity defines Delaware. And it's easy to make promises and it's easy to talk about numbers, but it's when we are demonstrating our care through action for others. As a member of the Delaware Prosperity Partnership, as a small business owner who employs folks across the state, and as the treasurer of the YMCA, I work on a day-to-day basis to create the opportunity to accelerate the earning potential of our Black women, of our Black men, and of all vulnerable populations across the state so that we can make a stronger generation and increase the potential of each individual across our state.
Thank you for the dialogue, gentlemen. I want to move now to a bit of commerce related questions as it relates to financial issues in our state. We'll start with you, Mr. Lawson. Should Delaware incorporate environmental, social, and governance factors into investment decisions, or should investment decisions focus solely on maximizing financial returns? How do you define fiduciary responsibility?
Thank you. I operate as a fiduciary on the day-to-day basis. It is a fiduciary is the individual that makes investment decisions that are always in the best interest of the individuals who they serve. I take that responsibility seriously and look for the opportunity to employ proven experience to take care of our investments. I believe that it is important, especially in a portfolio like Delaware's, to ensure that our investments are thoughtfully and mathematically invested for the long-term return. We have great discretion about who we work with, about and what topics they support, and how we use our Delaware dollars to invest in Delawarean projects. So while a portfolio might not have individual and specific non-math based investments, we can certainly use our hardworking taxpayer dollars to do the best we can.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
That was a rather long, poignant question. Could you just repeat that, please? I want to make sure I cover your bases.
I certainly will. Okay. So the question here around commerce is, should Delaware incorporate environmental, social, and governance factors into investment decisions, or should investment decisions focus solely on maximizing financial returns? How do you define the fiduciary responsibility? So is it make the money or invest as it relates to those issues that we spoke about, environmental, social, and governance factors?
Okay, well, certainly we want to maximize our dollars, but at the same time, we don't want to do anything that's also harmful and environmental to our citizens in the state of Delaware. I mean, you're talking about maybe wind and solar. Those projects can possibly be investments that we can invest in. So when you look at the overall investment, when the Cash Management Policy Board meets and they come together, they set policy as to what we're going to do with the money. So then after we elect the managers, it's at their discretion. It's not our discretion as to what they get to spend the money on. It's their sole decision. If they want to invest in solar, if they want to invest in wind, we don't just pull the plug on them if they do something that might not be right. But we trust when we hire them that they are doing the right thing. And so it's not my decision by myself. It's all of our decision. And we have to set policy that is good for the state of Delaware and Delawareans.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, this is something that I know frustrates a lot of people, especially a lot of workers, a lot of Democrats like us, right? We frequently hear Republican politicians and people on Wall Street kind of making this false dichotomy, in my opinion, which is that you can either consider social goals, governance goals, environmental goals as factors in your portfolio, or you just focus on the return. And I find that not only as an economist, but someone who founded an environmental nonprofit, I find that frankly nonsensical. Climate risk is financial risk, right? We're seeing this with SpaceX. If you have bad governance of your board of directors, that is a risk to the portfolio of the people who are investing in you. These are not separate things that you have to choose between. We need to recognize that there is a true risk of stranded assets, of fossil fuel-based projects. There are sincere risks with companies that have weak governance structures or have bad social commitments to underperform the market. Our duties in the cash management policy are safety, liquidity, and return in that order, and we cannot minimize safety.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson?
I believe I got a chance to start with that question, but
I'm sorry. You did.
Happy to expand on it.
No. Yeah, you're right. You did start with that. I apologize that. Okay, very good. So we're going to start with you with the next question. How about that? So let's talk a bit about small business and the struggles that they have. How can the Treasurer's Office better support Delaware small businesses and economic growth while staying within its statutory responsibilities?
There are several different ways that the state treasurer can support small business. And it works both on the investment side and on the programmatic side. On the investment side, by investing consistently along clear parameters, allows small business owners to make long-term plans and nonprofit organizations to plan their financial budgets over time. On the programmatic side, one of the things that is most specific to small businesses is the Delaware Earns program. And it's our treasurer, Colleen Davis, did a fabulous job along with Ted Griffith instituting that program. And it's now our ability and our opportunity to build upon that program. And the first step in building upon that program is reducing some of the administrative burden that fall on the shoulders of our small business owners so that they can encourage their folks to participate in a program that is good for their long-term best interest.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, here, Mr. Smith.
Yes, I've had the pleasure over the course of this campaign of speaking to dozens, maybe hundreds of small business owners. And to Ted's point, I think there's a lot of red tape that we can address, a lot of structures that can be used in the state of Delaware. I never like to overpromise that the treasurer specifically can help small businesses grow or expand, with one exception, of course, and that is what both Mike and Ted have brought up previously, and what I always really want to stress, which is Delaware Earns. I've had the fortune over the past few months to actually create my own small business, quote unquote, for this campaign. We have 9 employees now, and one of our employees just today, I did payroll a few hours ago, and he enrolled in Delaware Earns. It's a really fantastic program. It costs nothing to our small businesses, but can really help them be competitive in providing a employer-facilitated retirement plan that doesn't cost them anything other than maybe an hour or two every week during payroll. It's a really fantastic program, and right now, there's about 10,000 signups. We just passed the 10,000 mark about 2 weeks ago, and there's still about 150 to 200,000.
Thank you. That's time. I'm so sorry. Thank you for your passion for that. Mr. Miller?
So this is what I really don't understand, because I'm really promoting Delaware Earns. I think Colleen Davis did a great job. It just got implemented last year. What I don't understand is both of them said that it's a great program, but there's red tape. Yet I hear him say that it's easy to have access. He just accessed it. He has employees that are doing it. It's not that difficult. We just need to do a better job of getting out, promoting it. The state treasurer's office can go out and promote this at different events, different venues. We need to make sure. Now, as far as monies to help small businesses, I am a small business owner. I've been that for 33 years. So I've seen the ups and downs of money coming in, and when the country went down with the stock market. What I would like to see is maybe the state treasurer can go out and advocate for monies and dollars from the federal government to help with these small businesses. And that's what I would be doing.
Thank you so much. So stay right there. I'm going to ask you a question now. You started earlier to talk a bit about the fact that the treasurer sits on the Board of Pardons. So we're going to ask that question as it relates to the Board of Pardons and looking at those issues. So it's one of the many responsibilities of the treasurer is to sit on the Board of Pardons. So as treasurer, what would be your process for assessing the merits of each pardon application? What is your highest priority in reviewing those applications? What do you look at when you're considering, or what would you look at when you're considering someone for a pardon?
Okay, first of all, that's a very good question. The state treasurer sits on as many as 12 boards. This is one of my top 3, along with the cash management board and the program management board. I believe that I would be looking at the crime that they committed, if they served jail time, if it was a misdemeanor. There's some people that just have records where they've been arrested that are on their history, and that's an easy fix. I really believe that should be removed automatically if you're arrested and you don't go to trial and the charges are dropped. it should be automatically removed. That shouldn't even be coming to us, to the Board of Pardons. But there's so many cases like that in the state that just like when the kids were arrested in Rehoboth, now that's on their record, and that's going to have to be removed. We can do better. We got to do better. We got to streamline and cut the process.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Lawson, what do you think?
I think this is an incredibly important and incredibly heavy responsibility that sits on the shoulders of your independently elected state treasurer. As a JD from the University of Pennsylvania, I have the metrics, the legal metrics and education to assess and evaluate opportunities in line with our legal statutes. But even beyond those legal statutes, it's incredibly important that we look at individual cases, because these are fellow Delawareans. This is the recognition of the humanity and the opportunity of resilience within our community to assess the time that has passed, to assess the potential effect on the victims and the families of those victims, to assess the community impact and the opportunity for stability after incarceration. This is a huge deal, and we need someone thoughtful and positioned correctly to handle it.
What do you think, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, very thankful for this question. Most people do not realize that Delaware's Constitution puts the state treasurer on the Board of Pardons. It's one of 5 votes on every pardon and commutation recommendation in this state. I've actually had the opportunity while driving up down the state for the campaign to start an audiobook by Jennifer Doliak, who's a professor, it's called The Science of Second Chances. And this is something that I really would like to take an economist viewpoint. Right? I'll bring the same diligence to those files that come in front of the Board of Pardons that I bring to the state's books. I'm going to read every case, hear victims fully, hear applicants fully, and judge each person honestly. And I'll bring that economist's eye because, a pardon is often that last barrier, as Mike Miller mentioned, right? Between a Delawarean and a paycheck. A record blocks jobs, it blocks housing and licenses long after a debt is paid. And second chances aren't mercy, they are good policy. And so I will take that responsibility on the Board of Pardons very seriously.
Thank you. I'm going to start with Mr. Lawson on this next question. And Delaware enjoys a number of things. In addition to a good credit rating, we're also one of the nation's largest unclaimed property programs in the entire country. What improvements would we make or would you make to ensure fairness, transparency, and efficiency for residents and businesses? Mr. Lawson?
Well, thank you very much.
There you go.
The Treasurer's Office does not have the opportunity to lead the unclaimed property process. However, as an independently elected statewide official, as an investment manager on the day-to-day basis, and as a small business owner, we all appreciate the state government's responsibility to work hard to return hard-earned assets to our neighbors across the state. And so I will help work closely with the different divisions of the state government to ensure that we get those hard-earned assets that are built for individuals' futures back to those individuals and their families across the board so that they can implement them appropriately for their future trajectories.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Ted said. The state treasurer does not have jurisdiction over unclaimed property. If you will believe it, the person who does is the Secretary of Finance here in Delaware. And if you will not believe it, his name is also Michael Smith. Michael R. Smith. So I constantly get asked questions like these, and I always like to point to the Department of Finance because they're doing fantastic work. And there is some stuff that needs to be done on unclaimed property, and love to work with the Secretary of Finance to try to make that process simpler for people to get their gift cards and their bonds and their unclaimed property more broadly. I do think, though, that we as a state need to move away a little bit from using unclaimed property or a sheet for whatever financial situation comes up, and that we need to have a stronger portfolio of revenue so that we're not so dependent on certain pockets of money. So again, I'll reiterate what Ted said about the jurisdiction of the role of treasurer. That doesn't mean, though, I don't have my personal opinions, and I'm happy to talk about those as well.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, what do you think?
Yes. Do you know that behind personal income taxes, which is one, business franchise, corporate taxes, which is two, franchising, and number three, do you realize $424 million, which is number three in our state, is going to unclaimed property? That is a ridiculous amount of money that is being taken. And as we're trying to curb our budget, we should not be relying on that money at all. You know, the monies that's being taken. We do need to get it back. I mean, I've helped people, my clients who said that they had a bank account closed, to go back up to Wilmington to the office to get their unclaimed money. Rather, it was $1,000, $500, just accounts that were closed at banks. It needs to be streamlined. People need to get their money back, because in this day and age, they need the money more than the state needs the money. It needs to be taken out of the budget, period.
So I'm going to go back to Mr. Lawson a minute, because I want to talk about this more. I understand that while the role of the treasurer's office now may not have anything to do with this, but we've just discussed that this is a large amount of money. We've talked about the fact that there's inequities as it relates to wealth gaps and things of that nature and what have you. So is there a role for the treasurer's office to play, or should something be changed so that there's more engagement or more interaction with the treasurer's office?
Yes, there is a role for the state treasurer to play, and it probably is twofold. First, there is a financial planning element that the state treasurer can help model future outcomes of those investment sets and of that unclaimed property to provide stability over time. That is something that I do on a day-to-day basis as an investment manager for folks across Delaware. It's that investment piece, the practical and pragmatic improvement over time of our investments that matter. And then second, it's the proactive service approach. That unclaimed property belongs to our residents, and the state treasurer can work with the Secretary of Finance to proactively use our government systems to identify and return those hard-earned funds so that folks can work them into their budget to help make ends meet.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, what do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot of work that the treasurer can do, not necessarily within the office of state treasurer, but because, as we've mentioned previously, the treasurer is on various boards, committees, and councils. And the one that's most relevant to the question you asked is DFAC. And for those who are unfamiliar with the jargon of Dover, DFAC is the Delaware Economic and Financial Advisory Council. This is a group that simulates and models our revenue projections for the year. It is a crucial component that the Joint Finance Committee and other money committees in Delaware use to plan for the next fiscal year's budget. And it is something that the treasurer sits on. The treasurer can be a voice there. And I think having an economist in that role, in that seat, not only when it comes to unclaimed property, but when it comes to all our revenue streams, is incredibly important. I've spent much of my career doing that exact work, modeling, simulating, and making projections of economic and financial markets. And so I think I would be the best suited to be not only on DFAC, but in the treasurer's role on the DFAC council.
Mr. Miller, you have anything else further to say about that? The question is that, granted, in terms of the current configuration, there's not a specific role. You spoke passionately about that to a degree, but is there anything further you'd like to add based on the question that I asked, the follow-up question?
Yes, two things. Hey, Mr. Smith, I will see that you get appointed to that so that you can help make that happen with your economists. I think you would serve well. But let me say this. The monies that get taken, the state treasurer, though he's elected for state treasurer, there's many facets that they can advocate for. They are someone that when you're elected, people look for you to try to help. People don't just say you're the treasurer. They look for you to advocate on their behalf. And so I'm saying that I would be going to the state agencies, I'd be going to legislators to see that we can do and speed up the process. We need to be advertising unclaimed property, that this is where you need to go. If you think that you've had some monies taken or something taken, that you can go to this office. It's nothing but an advertisement. We need to be more proactive.
Thank you so much. So one of you started it. I'm going to ask the question. What are your thoughts about DFAC? I'm going to start with you, Mr. Lawson.
DFAC is an incredible advantage and niche opportunity that we have in Delaware to demonstrate our seriousness around our financial trajectory. As an independent modeling board appointed, with appointed positions and elected representatives, it provides the opportunity for us to demonstrate how consistently and how seriously we take our long-term stability in our state. That helps protect our AAA rating, and that AAA rating helps us invest in our Delaware communities and take care of our neighbors by reducing debt expenses and enhancing programs across the board. As an independently elected representative of that DFAC board, the treasurer gets the opportunity to be your voice and your fiduciary on it.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, what do you think? And I'm going to come to you last, Mr. Smith. I see you there chomping at the bit. So, Mr. Miller, what are your thoughts about DFAC?
I think it's a great economic tool that the state's been using for years to help forecast and to figure out what's going on with our economy. I think it's a great tool. And yes, the state treasurer has a voice that can help advocate or to make changes or to help set policy, just to it's just good all around. It's been working for years in our state.
Okay, Mr. Smith, you're up.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for DFAC. I think it is one of the greatest innovations the state of Delaware has made over the years, and that we are really particular about how we take in money for our state, how we're spending taxpayer dollars. This is, sometimes we give acronyms and abbreviations that most people outside of Dover don't understand, and I recognize that sometimes it can be a little confusing, but this is a really important council. This is something that drives not only our state budget, but also just a envisioning of how our state will go forward into the future. I will definitely be someone who is a fierce advocate for our workers and our retirees and our taxpayers on DFAC. But at the end of the day, it is a job about how we model and forecast our revenues. And I'm very excited to see that it has been officially codified into Delaware law. And I was down in Dover a few weeks ago when they did that. I'm very thankful for the General Assembly for putting it down into writing. And I'm very excited to potentially be serving on DFAC with so many great members of our executive.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I want to talk a little bit about how we protect resources and the kinds of things that we're experiencing. And clearly, AI is here to stay and grow, correct? So I'm going to start with you, Mr. Smith, in terms of talking about how do you see AI improving efficiency and transparency in the community from a budget perspective and issues related to Delaware citizens, or is it bringing new risk?
It can do both. That is the blessing and the curse of an emerging technology like artificial intelligence. This is something that's incredibly important to me. I'm sure many people have been following the battles between the Trump administration and Anthropic, and this is a very serious question on the future of government, right? The future of not only how do we incorporate these models, if we do so choose, into our government systems, but what access they have, what benefits they have, what risk does it entail? I'm someone who's very much on the safety end of that spectrum, someone who believes that we should act responsibly. We have seen with Claude Mythos that was really digging deep into all of the pre-written code in the internet that prevents a lot of vulnerabilities, not just in the internet structure, but in our financial plumbing. That is one of the underrepresented parts of any discussion about the treasurer's role, is that a lot of it is just making sure that the transactions the state needs to do happens at the right time. And AI can be an accelerant, making sure that we're doing these programs well, making sure that we are reconciling programs. But also can be a risk of losing data and losing the ability to have control over our state systems.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go to Mr. Miller, and I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Lawson, about this issue.
Listen, one of the first things you see when you see AI or ChatGPT or Gemini or any of those is that this information could be wrong. So don't trust any of it. Now, I think it can be a curse. I think it probably helps writing and maybe can forecast some things, but we've always, without ChatGPT or AI in the past, have relied heavily on men and women in our state who have put the figures together, who have budgeted the forecast, know what's coming in, economics, economists, and that's what we need to be relying on, not AI. I would be strongly opposed to using that much in our government in Delaware myself.
Thank you. What do you think, Mr. Lawson?
Artificial intelligence can be a great source of good and a great source of bad. In the Treasurer's office, it will be important that we work closely with experts across that field, including the Delaware Tech Council. As your treasurer, I would work with the Delaware Tech Council to implement processes that better secure our data, that improve our transparency, and that help our employees serve our constituents. However, artificial intelligence will never take the role of your independently elected fiduciary. It is the state treasurer's job to sit on these boards, to sit in that office, to work throughout the communities, to ensure that your hard-earned dollars are invested for your long-term benefit, because we cannot delegate to AI the ability to ask the hard questions in those meetings, to know how to lead those conversations, and to push back on the fanciness, the sophistication, and the fees of Wall Street.
Mr. Smith?
I believe I started that question.
You did start that question. I apologize. Okay, it's a long night. No problem.
Take an extra minute. I'll talk about the issue.
So okay, you're at the top of this issue. We're still talking about threats and concerns and what have you. So many financial institutions face increasing cyber security threats. So how do we protect Delaware's financial systems and taxpayer information? We just talked about AI, but how do we do this now for these other threats, potential threats?
Yeah, I will say these potential threats sometimes go hand in hand with the emergence of AI. I don't want to repeat too much of my previous answer, but we really saw with the introduction of Claude Mythos that there are a lot of vulnerabilities, not only in our infrastructure for the internet, but specifically our financial plumbing, our financial infrastructure. And there's always been bad actors in the financial markets. It is, whether it be someone going to hold up a bank, right, to get the money that's in the vault, or whether it's someone who's trying to do a more complex phishing scheme over email. There have been people who have wanted to get into financial institutions like Delaware, like the partners that we work with. And it is incredibly crucial that we are patching any security loopholes that there might be, and that we are using the tools that are available to us while also not giving more authority to these AI programs to potentially leak or potentially have negative ramifications of consumer and taxpayer dollars.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson? Are you there?
I am. The security of our state's hard-earned funds is critically important, but also the security of our individuals' hard-earned funds is incredibly important. And really where that cybersecurity can be implemented practically, pragmatically, and impactfully is through the Stand By Me program. The one-on-one financial literacy and support of meeting people where they are through trusted members of the community and working to help eliminate the trickery and the devastation that is around each of those corners in phishing emails or in cybersecurity attacks It's the ability to create a one-on-one experience that protects our individuals, because when we can secure an individual, then we can secure their household, their neighborhood, and their community.
Mr. Miller?
And see, I think Stand By Me is a great program, but I think it works hand in hand from, as you said, the state's chief financial officer. We want to make sure that everybody's safe. And so we're not going to turn away people from helping with the state treasurer. We can make a collaborative approach and still work with Stand By Me through the United Way. I think the overall thing that you're asking is, what are we going to do about cybersecurity and keeping us safe and keeping the state of Delaware safe with its investments and with our finances? I think we need to have good backup systems, because there are people out here who are trying to hack and get into systems all the time. And there's good people out there who are stopping them as soon as it happens. But there are some that break through and hold companies hostage. We haven't had that issue so much, but it could happen. And we need to do better with making sure that our systems are backed up when that happens.
Thank you. So let's start with you right here on this next question, which is, we know that home ownership is one of the bases of wealth building for most Americans or most individuals. So in that case, it still remains out of reach for many young families, maybe not even just so young families, but are there financial tools or saving initiatives the treasurer should champion to help first-time homeowners?
Yes. Homes are outrageous right now. I mean, the average home being $400,000 or $600,000 just for, to live and to take care of your family is just outrageous and ridiculous. We can do better with the state treasurer. I would be advocating for more cash. I know we have the state housing authority that helps first-time home buyers, but on a lower range. But everybody needs help. And I'd be advocating to try to get funding into our state from the federal government, from other agencies, from philanthropists, from investments, to try to help with a down payment on a home, to help eliminate a down payment on a home, because certain monies that you put down may not change the payment that much. But we want to try to get people into home ownership itself. And it's hard when the homes are $500,000.
I'm sorry, that's time, Mr. Miller. What did you think, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, this is one of the most common issues I get talked about at the doors, right? The three issues I talk about most frequently with voters, they're talking about the high cost of mortgage and rents. They talk about Delmarva, or enter your electric utility here, and they talk about property reassessment. And it's unfortunate because a lot of times I have to say, the treasurer doesn't necessarily deal with that issue in particular, but that doesn't mean that we have to be ignorant to the fact that a lot of our families are struggling. A lot of our millennial and Gen Z Delawareans can't afford a home, right? I'm a renter myself. I'm, someone who really sees how difficult it is for people to afford housing in our state. We have such an issue, not only with people not being able to afford a home, but we have so many people who are homeless, people who are working day in and day out to try to find housing and can't afford it or can't find it. I will say that I never like to overpromise on what the treasurer can specifically do on this issue. This is going to be an issue that we have to work with the General Assembly. And that's why I'm so grateful for the incredible connections I've made over the years with members of the General Assembly and the great work that's being done on housing for not only actually, if you'll believe it, in Congress down in Washington, D.C.
Mr. Smith, I'm going to say to you, when you get to the end of your comments, at times it tends to fade out a bit. So maybe stay a little closer. You get excited towards the end there and it starts to go out a little bit. So we want to hear everything you have to say. So thank you so much. I just want to give you that advisory. Mr. Lawson, what do you think about home ownership and issues for Delawareans facing home ownership and first-time home buyers?
I think the next treasurer is going to have a wonderful opportunity and an exciting opportunity to make an impact on how we think about home ownership opportunities across our state. On the investment front, I think that there are very thoughtful and impactful equity and loan types of ideas that are being piloted in different states around the country, that we will be able to benefit from those pilot programs and be able to introduce the best practices here in Delaware. I think the financial literacy and the one-to-one experience of the Stand By Me program can help folks evaluate current benefits and evaluate those opportunities to buy or to rent. And then finally, I'm excited to work closely with my close friend, State Senator Russ Huxtable, who just endorsed our campaign this week as the champion within the legislature on home affordability issues.
Thank
Can
you.
I add something, ma'am?
No, we can't do that. It's not a rebut, so we can't do that. But what I do want you to talk about, Mr. Lawson and the others, is to talk about innovation somewhat. You've mentioned Stand By Me quite a few times. I know that there, is it the issue of financial literacy education? And I want the other candidates to speak about that as well, but also to speak about maybe innovation or ideas and et cetera, versus an endorsement per se on one program.
Do you mind providing the question again?
Yes, the question is that would you speak to perhaps maybe the innovation or thoughts that you might have in terms of the Treasurer's Office? You referenced Stand By Me several times as perhaps maybe a model or an example, but can you speak about any other opportunities potentially maybe that might happen in the State Treasurer's Office around similar programming?
Sure. So on the programmatic side, there's a number of opportunities for us to expand the capacity of our Office of State Treasurer to care for our neighbors across the state. The programs that we have in place have been done beautifully by the current treasurer, Colleen Davis. And like in all of our lives, in our personal lives, in our business life, and in our state government, we have the opportunity to iterate upon those experiences. We'll use the Stand By Me program, first and foremost, we can increase access and we can start tailoring the types of discussions that are being had in those conversations, from trying to figure out savings for retirement when really today folks are trying to survive from week to week. There are also additional improvements that can be made in the other programs that I would love to talk about, and encourage you to visit my website at tedlawson.com to check out the impact of what we can do there.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Yes, listen, Stand By Me is a great financial literacy thing, but we have an amazing opportunity right now. It may not happen tomorrow. It may not happen a year from now, but imagine that 10 years from now, as we're teaching financial literacy to our elementary school students who are learning how to invest, who are learning how to open a bank account, who are learning how to manage their money, follow a portfolio, follow a stock from the 9th grade to the time they graduate, and making sure that we have a mandatory 1-credit course that they have to graduate with. Imagine 10 years from now how our students will now be a part of society investing. And so some of those things that we're struggling with right now with taking care of a family, when they become adults, they're going to be well ahead of the game if we start now. We have to do better with our students, with our classes and our elementary students. We're getting away from it. We're getting away from the basics.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the best avenue for innovation in the Treasurer's Office is higher education. My parents suffered bouts of unemployment during the Great Recession. My college fund was effectively gone overnight. I was fortunate to find a school that offered me a full merit scholarship for my degrees, but it was hundreds of miles away from home. And this is an issue I consistently hear from voters. Their children or grandchildren are either moving out of state to find an affordable degree or taking on tens of thousands of dollars of crushing student loan debt. No wonder our younger generations feel so betrayed right now. The American dream that they were promised is constantly being delayed or outright denied. Now, the Treasurer doesn't set the tuition at the University of Delaware, but it does run Delaware's 529 Higher Education Savings Plan, which covers not just college, but also vocational and technical programs. As treasurer, I'll increase the seed funding for new college savings account for children under the age of 5, and also expand Aspire 529, which is a fantastic pilot project that helps students in the foster care system, which I can believe can be made more generous and more inclusive.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, I have another question that we formatted, and then we've got a couple from voters that we'd like to pose to you as well. So we'll start with you, Mrs. Smith. We'll go to you, Mr. Lawson, and we'll hit Mr. Miller last. Delawareans or Delaware manages this is important to me, and I'm sure a lot of folks in terms of pension assets, but manages billions of dollars of pension assets. What investment philosophy would you bring to protecting retirees while ensuring strong long-term returns? You're on mute, Mr. Smith.
Yes, I'm running for treasurer to be a fighter, not just a caretaker. And part of that fight is standing up for our state employees, the people who drive our state, but are too often ignored or left with broken promises. Now, the treasurer does not have direct authority on pensions. That is something that is, again, in a different department. But the treasurer does have authority over the deferred compensation plans, the 403Bs and the 457Bs. And for the past 18, now going on 19 years, the state of Delaware has been promising our teachers, our education support professionals, and our state employees that it would reinstate the match on their retirement savings contributions. I believe it is beyond time to make it right. And as treasurer, I fight both to bring back that matching program and increase the cap to account for the inflation that's occurred over the past 2 decades. I'd also be an independent voice, standing up in support of our teachers, ESPs, and state workers on the State Employee Benefits Committee, and fulfilling the promises made to our active and retired public employees. No one gets into public service to get rich. We should be protecting the health care and retirement benefits they deserve.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson, what are your thoughts?
As the only individual in this race who has ever professionally managed a single dollar for anybody else, I take the opportunity to invest and protect hard-earned funds very seriously. And we concentrate in those investment allocations, we concentrate on the controllables, on the math-based allocations and the fees that we pay for that allocation. Beyond that, it comes down to the ability to invest those funds to deliver on our promises so that folks who have worked an entire lifetime to be able to take care of their homes, take care of their families, take care of the next generation, and to help their communities have the opportunity to achieve their goals.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, what are your thoughts?
Listen, I heard Mr. Smith say he wants to increase seed money for students. We're talking about trying to reduce the budget, and I keep hearing him talking about how he wants to add to the budget. We need to streamline our budget, cut some spending, and we have to find a better way for our students with the 529 plans, getting monies invested for them. We can't afford to just keep giving out money. I know he said he want to have a match program for $3,000 for children who are born in the United or in Delaware. Those are monies that we can't afford. Now, I want to just say that we can't keep getting away from what the actual issues are. We have to hit them on directly and handle them where they are. I want to go back. Financial literacy is a big piece of my platform.
Yeah, respond.
So I'm gonna come back to you, Mr. Smith, for rebuttal. You were called by name, so definitely. I just want to be clear that Mr. Miller understood we were talking about pension assets and how to protect retirees when ensuring strong long-term returns. So are you suggesting, Mr. Miller, that is financial literacy? Was that your response?
No,
Okay.
I was a moment ago, I asked you, could I get something back in? You said no. So I was trying to answer the question. But let me say this. The policy board has 11 members on it. I've heard Mr. Smith, I've heard Mr. Lawson talk about how they want to invest the state's money. We can't invest the state's money on our own. It's an 11-member panel board that has to make decisions, set policy. Once that money goes over to the managers, they're the ones that make the decision, not us. We make no decision on how the money gets invested. What we do is the state treasurer, once the money is decided where it's going, we make sure that the money gets there. That's what we do. We safeguard the money.
Thank you so much. So back to Mr. Smith. There's a rebuttal on the earlier comment. Would you like to respond?
Tell you what, I would like to agree and disagree with Mike Miller. I agree with him that it is true that the state treasurer does not have sole authority for investment, and to claim otherwise is misunderstanding the role. But then secondly, I would also like to acknowledge that the programs that I've suggested are not big money pits. The fiscal note on the baby bonds program is about $9 million a year. The fiscal note for increasing and bringing back the retirement savings match for our state employees is about $9.5 million per year. This is 1/10% of our state budget. It's not some fiscal.
I'm sorry, that's time. I understand. We understand your point, I think. So, all right, and you were fading out a little bit again, but I think we heard you said that in essence, it was not a significant amount in terms of considerations for each one of the programs that you articulated. Was that correct on your behalf?
That is correct, yes.
All right. Okay, very good. Very good. So we're going to get to two questions now that the audience has asked us. And one has to do with similar to your discussions. I'm going to start with Mr. Lawson, but similar to your discussions about the popular program that we already have, Delaware Earns, is that what innovative approach would you implement to attract young families to our state? So we're going to start with you, Mr. Lawson.
Let's see, the treasurer has the opportunity to help attract young families to our state kind of in two primary ways. First, by helping establish the consistency and stability of it long-term investments and protect our AAA ratings so that folks who are picking Delaware to raise their families have the opportunity to know that it will be strong, stable, and supportive over time. And the second is the opportunity to innovate within our programs to provide the support that our folks need across the state, which includes a full, transparent set of benefits that includes, a strong economic growth trajectory and pertinent programs like the Delaware 529, which has some room for improvement, the Delaware Earns program, and the Stand By Me program that provides the opportunity for families.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Okay, so helping small businesses in this Delaware Earns, I want us to streamline. I think what Ms. Davis has started is very nice. I think that where we can go with it is, with the younger generation, is that most of them are self-employed or by themselves. They're either 1099 or they're working on their own. And so this Delaware Earns is for those who have employees, but they don't have any pension plans. And so the employer has to opt in order for the employees to even get it. So what I'm saying is we need to streamline. I want to open it up to everyone who has $25 that wants to invest. If you're a small business owner and you're the only employee, you should be able to invest. There's no limit on the amount. It could be $25 a month. It could be $50. It could be $1,000.
I'm so
All
sorry.
I'm
This
saying
time, Mr. Miller. I apologize. What do you think, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I agree with Mike Miller. I think that a lot of people, especially a lot of young families, a lot of young individuals are working non-traditional jobs, right? These are people working for small businesses, certain nonprofits, working in the gig economy, right? Doing DoorDash or Lyft. I know these workers very well. I've moonlit as an Uber driver while working on campaign jobs in the past, and I've spent years in Delaware's nonprofit community. These are not people on the margins of our economy. They're the people who make it run. And so, yes, I would definitely want to encourage more people to sign up for Delaware Earns. And I think there is a lot of great work that can be done of making a clear on-ramp for the self-employed and for gig workers to enroll. I myself am on Delaware Earns. I think it's a fantastic program, and I do really want to increase the number of enrollments that we have, not only because there are people currently in Delaware who could take advantage, but because this is a really great recruiting tool for our state, bringing in people who may not have access to a retirement plan through their traditional line of work and giving them the option to save for their future in a way that if they need that money, that principal that they put into the account, they can take that out because it's a Roth.
Thank you. I'm going to give this next question to starting with Mr. Lawson, and then we're going to begin to wrap up and hear your final remarks. And thank you all for your engagement thus far. It's been a pleasure. So the question from the public, Mr. Lawson, is that what accomplishments would you want to be remembered by if you're elected to serve in this role?
That's a nice question. Thank you very much. There are a series of accomplishments that I would love to be remembered for as the state treasurer. And I think it can work in parallel along both the investment front and the programmatic front. On the investment side, it would be about mathematically aligning our investment sets with our democratic values, bringing an update to our debt policy, and improving transparency so that folks can see where they're invested and with whom they're invested. On the programmatic side, things are tight right now, and things are tough right now, and things are scary right now for a lot of people. And so it's the ability to expand our programs in through trusted networks into our communities that right now don't have access to all of those benefits that our state works hard to provide.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that? What do you want to be remembered by?
Yeah, we've talked about a lot of them already in fantastic programs like Delaware Earns, building on the pilot project of Aspire 529, letting people know that they're being heard in the treasurer's office. There's so many people, as Ted just mentioned, who are struggling, families who can't make ends meet. I've been in that situation in the past. I know how difficult it is. If I have a few seconds, I would like to talk about one account that we have not talked about so far, and that are ABLE accounts. Something I would really like to get and communicate the great nature of this program, which allows people who have disabilities to save for their future without worrying about losing access to their benefits. I've had great conversations with people from Easter Seals. In fact, my very first time meeting Treasurer Colleen Davis in person was at an Easter Seals fundraiser years ago over at the Two Stones Pub. There's a really great new eligibility that has moved the date of first injury from 26 to 46. That means there's millions more Americans, including 1 million veterans, most of whom have no idea if they qualify for this great program.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
As Miss Davis will be remembered for starting the Delaware Earns and working on the 529 program, I want to be remembered for continuing with that Delaware Earns and making it more accessible. But more importantly, I want to make sure that we implement from the elementary level up to graduation from high school financial literacy. I cannot emphasize that the most, but I want to be a voice. Not only am I running for treasurer, but I want to be a voice for the voiceless, those who are struggling with a home that is costing $500,000, or those who are even trying to buy their first home at $200,000 or $300,000. There's not many of those out there. We need to make sure that we advocate these home builders who are building in our state, that they implement and put more low-income housing into those developments that people can actually afford. And there's so many different things that I want to be remembered for. But one thing, if I can.
Sorry, it's time, and thank you for your passion. I'm changing my mind in that there's one last question that I would like to ask, and Mr. Miller, I'll start with you as well. Is should the treasurer be more visible to citizens of the state of Delaware? Why or why not?
Absolutely, unequivocally, yes. I will be opening up my doors to make sure that people can come in on a regular basis, on a Wednesday or whatever, what have you, to see me for maybe 3 or 4 hours. We're going to set up appointments. So maybe the date is a Wednesday where people can come in to Dover and discuss any issues. And maybe just like our state congressmen and women, we'll be able to point them in the right direction. Or we may have some of those people, even though we're the state treasurer's office, we're going to have some of those people in our office that day that we can point them to right then. So being on call, being on standby to be able to, whatever the issue may be, it might be housing, it may be the Social Security, it may be food, but we're gonna be open door policy. You do need to be visible. You can't, when it comes time for me to be reelected, they're gonna know that Mike Miller was out in the community.
Thank you. What do you think, Mr. Lawson? Should you be out in the streets?
Absolutely. The role of the investment manager of our state is based in trust. Trust is not developed overnight. Trust is not developed by making big promises. Trust is created by delivering value time and time again, not when it goes to feed your ego, not when it goes to, a campaign and the excitement. When no one's looking, it goes to doing the right thing for other people. To build that trust, we must be in our neighborhoods. We must be in our communities, like the one I visited in Georgetown, in which a family's life savings was in cash in a shoebox because they didn't trust the financial organizations to take good care of them. The treasurer's role and the treasurer's job is to help build that trust with individuals across our state so that we can protect the future that each Delawarean is working so hard to achieve.
Thank you so much. What about you, Mr. Smith? What do you think about that?
I'm someone who believes that the treasurer and every statewide elected official needs to be out in the community, out on the streets. I've had the personal privilege of going and knocking on doors across our state, from Seaford to Claymont, from Newark to Dagsboro, from Newcastle to Newport, from Milton to Wilmington. And don't worry, Kent County, I will be personally knocking your doors later this week. I believe that we need to have someone who's active in communicating the benefits of the great programs that are in the treasurer's role, being transparent, being out in the community. And I know that I've gotten my licks today about my big ideas and what I hope to do as treasurer. And if someone accuses me of having imagination, then declare me guilty as charged, because I believe this is a really great opportunity to help Delawareans.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank all of you. We're going to now ask you to give a closing remarks. I'm going to start with Mr. Miller, and then we're going to go to Mr. Lawson. Mrs. Smith, you will be last.
First, I want to thank the Democrat Party for allowing us to have this debate, this platform to be able to speak to people tonight. You can learn more about visiting our campaign website, Mike Miller, 4, treasurer.com, or you can just simply give me a call at 302-542-8142. I want to say this. Jack Markell trusted Mrs. Potter, Velda Jones Potter, to be his state treasurer when he appointed her. She was also the city of Wilmington treasurer. I've been endorsed fully by her campaign to be the next state treasurer, to be able to do a great job. In closing, my vision is simple. Teach every Delaware student how money works. Give every Delaware worker the opportunity to save for retirement. Protect every taxpayer's dollar with honesty, transparency, and accountability. If we accomplish all those things, we'll be a better Delaware. I believe my 33 years of real-world financial experience, my commitment to the public service, my vision for Delaware's future make me the right person to serve for you in the state of Delaware. Every child taught how money works, every worker given a chance to save, every dollar protected. That's not a slogan. That's 33 years of my life's work, and I'm ready to bring it to Dover. I respectfully ask for your support in the Democratic primary on September the 15th. Together, we can build a stronger, Delaware and family, one student
That's
and
time,
one
sir.
community
I'm so sorry.
at a
Thank you
time.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Lawson.
Each of us knows that we help others, that frankly, that we care for others best when we do what we're really good at. And while, my 4 young kids and my wife can certainly attest, I cannot sing very well, I cannot dance very well, but I can invest money really well. And I can run and implement financial literacy programs really well. That's why I'm running for treasurer, to use a hard-earned, pretty nerdy investment management background to serve and protect our neighbors across our state. And so it's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you this evening, to answer questions and to share a little bit about the vision that I have for the Office of State Treasurer. I'm excited to cross paths with you up and down the state and to work hard to serve you and your families. If you'd like to learn more about our campaign, please visit our website at tedlawson.com or give me a call at 302-228-8916. And on September 15th, please choose proven experience for proven results. Please vote Ted Lawson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Mr. Smith, bring us home.
Yes, I want to first and foremost thank the Delaware Democratic Party for putting this on. And I would also like to plug my website and my personal cell phone. My website is michaelsmithde.com, and my personal cell phone is 302-635-4946. I would like to finish off with a story, if I may. When I was 14 years old, I watched my parents sit at our kitchen table with a stack of bills, trying to figure out which ones could wait. The recession hit our family the way it hit so many families. Through no fault of our own, we did everything right, and it still wasn't enough. That's why I became an economist. Because behind every number is a family like mine, doing the math at their own kitchen table. So here's what I'll fight for as your treasurer. Lower costs for your family. Retirement with dignity for every worker, whether you teach in our schools, drive for Uber, or run a shop on Main Street. College savings that start at birth, so every child's future starts with an asset, not a burden. And a Delaware strong enough to stand up to Donald Trump and ready for whatever comes next. I'm the only professional economist in this race, but more importantly, I'm the kid from that kitchen table. So remember, I'm the Democrat, Michael Smith, the economist. And on September 15th, I'm asking for your vote, so every Delaware family can afford to thrive.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. We wish you the best in your race. It's been a pleasure to be with you this evening. You've been engaging. You all have been respectful of each other and the exchange of ideas. We've learned a lot from you in your various campaigns. I'd like to say thank you all so much for joining us this evening on behalf of the Delaware Democratic Party, and also those of you who joined us. We hope that this information has assisted you in being able to make an informed decision to get out and vote for one of these gentlemen as it relates to the Office of Treasurer. Thank you so much, everyone, and good night.
Good night. Thank you.